Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 4 of the ALGS Pro League. This is the EMEA broadcast, and we are approaching the halfway point of the Pro League, so certainly a lot at stake here. It is go big or go home and fall behind in the standings. We have Alliance, one of the winners of last week. We have KCP, the winner of day 1, and we have Ascend, the winners of day 2. A battle of all of the previous winners of the ALGS. And to help call the action, I can't do it myself. It's none other than the duo themselves. We got Onset and Gaskin. Gentlemen, how are we feeling today? Onset, starting with you.
Super excited, man. Like you said it out perfectly, right? We're now getting to that point where we have to start looking at not what's happened, but how much we've got left to play, because those games are starting to run out. Those match days are starting to run out. And I think that all the teams who are kind of hovering around the bubble at the moment, they're going to know that more than anyone. So I think today's going to have a big impact on how the standings end up.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to everything, Paul. I'm looking to see how these teams have researched the first few weeks, how they've prepped for these other teams, because you've got the chance to learn them now, right? You've been able to study those lobbies. There should have been hours and hours of research going into all of this from the coaches. So there should be a lot of differences with how people are rotating, how people are planning in these games.
Yeah, that's a great point. 3 weeks into Pro League, so it's a lot of time to make some alterations. Well, there's a few teams that have to do exactly that. Let's take a look at our participating standings, our participants today, before we jump into the standings for the day. And we got Group A versus Group B. So this is going to be a repeat of the first day 1 matchup that we saw, where we saw a couple cool things. You know, the 3 Muppets, a new rookie team, had showed some life in that matchup, but ultimately it was the Kansas City Pioneers that won it. They showed a little bit of weakness last week in the grand scheme of things, but then you also have teams like Corpa, you have teams like Navi, you have teams like Heroes that have a lot to prove, and then the Gaiman Gladiators all the way down in the standings. A once great team in EMEA is nowhere to be found right now overall. So again, a lot of stories here, a lot of great teams to keep an eye out for. Invictus Gaming, the meshing of Graceful and JMW, former teammates on Nessie, with Noises as the IGL. Certainly a lot to discuss, but let's jump into the standings and take a look at where these teams are currently standing right now. And just a quick reminder for those at home, the top 20 teams, so this page right here, will make it to the regional EMEA final, where the winner automatically qualifies for Split 1 playoffs. After that winner, the top 9 teams in points, and that last regional final counts as a point day, so keep that in mind. So top 20 is important right now, but Gaskin, walk me through what you're seeing here in the standings.
Yeah, as you said, a few surprises down in the bottom half, but up in the top half, teams that we were expecting to see have this success. Pioneers leading. I think that was what I was expecting after, how long that these guys formed, and, what happened after the change as well. I'm really excited to see how they progress. They did become a bit stagnant in the last couple of weeks, but I do think they are going to continue their success and move on forward. Elsewhere in the mid-table, you've got a few teams who've got to do a lot of work to try and catch up. Already starting to drop off now are the kind of 11th through 20th. And then as you get further down, there are some squads who are in doom and gloom territory. Fallout, those who are going to be kind of scratching their heads, asking what's going wrong, what can they do different, what have they got to change. But I tell you what, they've got to change it fast. Otherwise, they will find themselves really struggling as we move on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Gaiman Gladiators, and you pointed them out rightly, because they have been the powerhouse team, but something isn't going right at the moment. Is it the evolution of the meta game? Is it just a little bit of, something not quite clicking? I need them to show me something this week to make me believe that they can make a run in these final few weeks of Pro League, because they need to. There's too much talent on that team to not see them at least competing up in those higher echelons. Yeah,
that's a great point. I'm gonna just go ahead and say it. Look, this is a much needed win type of week for them, a must perform type of week for them. If they do not perform today, going into the halftime or halfway point of the season, I mean, good luck. You're gonna have to do something miraculous like Alliance did last time around. But we saw it before. Alliance was able to somehow, some way pull a rabbit out of the bag and dominate the final few weeks of Split 2 to make it to the playoffs. Can the Gaiman Gladiators do that starting today? We'll find out. But hey, there's a couple teams in particular to watch and keep an eye out for. This is one of my favorite parts of the opening show. It's our teams to watch. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. For me, well, it's gonna be deja vu. I'm gonna be covering the Kansas City Pioneers yet again. This team has been so incredibly strong. They came off of the win at the Rewired Festival with Verholst, came into Pro League, and a lot of question marks around Max Strafey. Returning to this team, the Ukrainian powerhouse player, how are they going to perform? Well, this was the game that really cemented it for them. Look at the top right of your screen. Nasky had 9 kills. This was a 19-kill game total for them. They've been looking so strong. The former great Dynasty roster in Nasky, Strafey, and Dell before Strafey got picked up by Navi and switched teams and kind of broke up the band. Well, guess what? The band is back together, and they have been looking fantastic. As we take a look here at the Ascend roster and Ascend lineup. But first things first, we got to take a look at the stats for KCP. I love this stat page. You see their average kills, you see their total kills, number 2 overall, but look at the bottom left. Your placement to kill percentage goes to show how many points that they earn from kills or from placement. Well, the vast majority of the points they earn are from kills. They're a high kill, high octane type of team. I want to see them be a little bit more consistent in placement overall. At 6th place, they used to be one of the best teams in terms of placement overall, but that's my pick. I got the KCP, Kansas City Pioneers on site. Who are you picking?
Well, no surprise. It's going to be Ascend. We got a little bit of a teaser there. We got a little bit of a taster. And why would I not talk about Ascend? I mean, the previous time we saw them here in Pro League, 3 back-to-back wins. They are actually number 1 in total points as well. They're not number 1 in the leaderboards, but total points they've gathered from games, they are at the top of the pile. And I want to talk a little bit about the new addition because he has been absolutely phenomenal. Lufka, the controller player, coming in and giving them that little bit of extra juice in those end zones. He is currently sat 4th overall in kills. He dropped 21 kills the last time we saw him on our screens. The man is a machine. Ascend look dominant, and I think that they're certainly going to be a team who is very, very happy with the position they find themselves in. Speaking of stats, you're looking at their placement to kills percentage. It's very even across the board, but they actually have the most points from placements out of any team at the moment in the EMEA region. Not surprising to see as well. 3rd for average kills, 1st for average placement, 3rd. I mean, there's not much you can be disappointed with if you're an Ascend fan with those stats you see on your screen.
That's right. Ascend's been looking absolutely dominant as well. Shout out to the Portuguese Apex community. But last but not least, Gaskin, who are you picking?
I'm going to go with Alliance. And John, I had to steal this one away from you because I know you're one of the biggest fans of Alliance and what they used to do. But of course, they went through changes. They lost Vibes. He left and they had to try and find a replacement. They had stand-ins last week. Incredible what we saw them able to achieve with a stand-in. But now we see a new addition, Effect, coming into the lineup. I think Alliance are starting to hit their rhythm at the perfect time, right at the mid-season. Sure, it was a little bit shaky to begin with, but it seems like they found their footing once more. And if they can be like the Alliance that we once knew with this new addition, which I've heard a lot of hype around as well, Effect, I think this could be a team that we have to look out for. We have to be considering as one of the biggest teams in this region, John.
Yeah, I got to completely agree. All eyes on Alliance with their pickup of Effect. Where are they going to be doing it? Well, same map rotation we've seen already in Pro League. We'll be switching that obviously halfway through the season. But for now, Storm Point maps number 1 through 3. World's Edge is where things will be closed out in games 4 through 6. That is your map rotation for the day. And guess what? You can watch your way, however you want to watch, courtesy of Multiview, an award-winning feature brought to you by the ALGS. Make sure to click the Command Center on Twitch right below the stream to be able to watch your favorite pro players, hear their comms, their point of view. You can listen to every single drop, every rotation, and also have the main broadcast running. Watch it how you want to watch it. 4 POVs, 3 POVs, one's bigger, one's smaller. Watch your way with Multiview and Command Center. One of the best additions to the ALGS last season for sure. But obviously, a lot to discuss here, a lot to get ready for as game number 1 is just around the corner as we're going to be returning. It's been a little bit of a break here. We had a whole week. It feels like way too long since ALGS Pro League, but there's, of course, a day 4 of action right around the corner. Before we jump to game number 1, though, it is time to discuss the newest component of our pre-show. It's the WD Black. What's in your pack? Let's take a look. All right. So, WD Black, what's in your pack? What is this going to entail? Well, gentlemen, let's bring you in for the discussion here. I'll be explaining to you and the viewers at home. It's going to be a moment in ALGS Pro Leagues previously where someone was able to pick something up in their inventory that made a huge impact in the game. It could be a gold helmet or a gold knockdown shield, which helped with reses. It could be an item or a weapon. But let's jump in to what we saw last Pro League. And guess what? We're going to start with a little bit of a controversial discussion around the Kraber here. Strafey gets the Kraber in hands here with the Kansas City Pioneers, and they're able to absolutely get a first knock and obliterate Cleve from Aurora. On set, obviously, the Kraber and the impact it has in late game. Talk to me through your thoughts here.
I think the name of this segment is perfect because if you're a player who has this in your backpack or in your pack, so to speak, then you're very, very happy. But if you're finding out what's in someone's backpack and it's a Kraber, you're very unhappy because you can get absolutely decimated. If you're taking a clean 3v3, you're thinking you're on top, all of a sudden cross map, you get hit with a Kraber shot. It is just a game changer. We know what the Kraber can do, love it or hate it. It is a game-changing weapon. And when you've got someone with the ability that Strafey has to hit those shots, you can see how it just completely and utterly changed the end game here for Pioneers. They were in a backs to the wall position, then they ended up picking up a huge amount of kills. So the Kraber, as we know, is still that game-changing weapon that causes problems for everyone who doesn't have it in their hands.
Yeah, and it's a good thing, obviously, no longer one-shot, headshot down in late games if you have a level 3 or level 4 helmet, which is good, but the damage that it's able to do to take someone out of the game, I'd say you hit the nail on the head. I mean, Gaskin, any thoughts on your end and the Kraber's impact here in late games?
I mean, I might not have the biggest of fans when I say that I love the Kraber. I always have loved the Kraber. I think it's incredible because when it's in my hands, I can actually kill people. And that's what I need. I need as much help as possible, John. But it does create some very exciting moments. And as you can see, like, it really was the difference maker last week.
Yeah, that's right. I completely agree. It's a power weapon at the end of the day, and it's obviously fun to watch, fun to see. I totally get the player's point of view, but a good discussion for sure. But this has been the WD Black What's in Your Pack. First time we had a chance to talk through it, but obviously a lot more of discussion here with today's action. It is day number 4, almost at the halfway point of the Pro League. Go big or go home, quite literally, for teams like the Gaiman Gladiators, like Corpa, who fall in the bottom 4 or bottom 5 of the standings. Top 20 is what teams are vying for as an opportunity to qualify for the regional final in just a little bit. And guess what? They'll start that journey right now. Game number 1 is ready, and to call the action, we got none other than Onset and Gaskin. Gentlemen, take it away.
Oh, I'm ready for this one. I am ready for today's action. I'm ready for this week. Look at this. Got a little shoulder shake going on early here, Dan. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but that means I'm excited. That means the adrenaline is pumping. I'm sure it is for these players as well. Of course, we are now getting to what you have to call the meat and bones of Pro League. You've had a few days under your belt. You've got your rotations down. You think you're playing the way you want to. Or maybe if you're at the bottom of the table, you're thinking the opposite. Now it's time for us to step up and change the way we're approaching these games because we need points and we need them now.
Yeah, and the real question for me, are we going to see any massive changes from the last Pro League week? Of course, now we are playing on the newest patch. We are playing on the live patch of Apex Legends. So we are going to possibly see the addition of Catalyst. Is anyone going to go for something a little bit more out there? My thoughts, probably not. I think people are going to stick with what they've tried, what they've tested, and what they've been scrimming with. But we are still seeing quite a selection of legends at the moment, quite a variety, and that's what I love. I love to see variety in these games.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how teams play. Are we going to see that hard zone play that we have seen quite a lot so far? Are we going to see a little bit of a change for those teams in the chasing pack who are maybe going to look to isolate some fights on the edge of zone? All of these questions, of course, are going to be answered in the next couple of hours of play. 6 games in front of us, 3 on Storm Point, where we start our day off, Dan. And as we can see, the dropship, it's on its way. And as we know from week 1, we're not going to see too many contests going down because everyone is going to have a safe space to call home.
Yeah, everyone's going to be happy. You're not going to see too many early game fights between these teams. There's a lot of respect. Although, I mean, through scrims lately in both regions, North America and EMEA that I've been watching, there has been some arguments over beacons. Who's got what? Who's going to be able to grab a beacon? Is one player going to get that beacon? Are they going to actually take the shots? It does make it quite controversial when you are having those moments in scrims, but suddenly when you get into a competitive environment, things are a little bit different. You can't take those risks. You can't necessarily go for that beacon unless you really trust the other team, as beacon's very important, something that we've been kind of seeing over the last few weeks. Those teams who do land and have a beacon near them are going to have that opportunity to early rotate, Mark.
Well, one team that we should, of course, be focusing our attention on is the team on your screen right now, the team who is top of the pile going into today's action. That is, of course, the Kansas City Pioneers. And one thing that's been really impressive for me was that performance in week number 1, where it seemed like the chemistry was back for the boys. The 3 teammates that we know have been together for quite some time. They're dropping, of course, right at the northern tip of Storm Point by the wall. They're also going to have maybe some beacon information, but you saw where that circle was going down. Pretty central zone to start with, and for a team like KCP who like to get an early rotate on the board, the fact that they only have to move downhill, they're going to be fighting all of their fights from the upper ground, having cemented the wall, shall we say, as their drop spot. It should be a potential for a high kill game for them.
Yeah, you'd imagine so. I think it's going to be a big difference for these teams who have to move a lot further rather than just being able to migrate to the wall, as you say. Storm Point a little bit different to World's Edge as well, especially when we look at the statistics of ring pools at the moment. It's kind of spread fairly evenly across the board, no matter where you drop and where you land, so you don't have to have the placebo effect of, oh, we should be pushing or we should keep staying. Very different on World's Edge, right? It's been very Westly, and we can talk about that later, but right now on Storm Point, don't worry about any of those thought processes. Just play your game. Make sure you're rotating the way that you've rotated so many times in scrims. And, you know, it is going to be a longer journey for others as they have to move north here, but that doesn't mean you can't still have a high kill game.
Well, a little bit of poke damage going on early here, and it's always interesting to see who has beacon information and who doesn't. And then Horizon at the moment look like they do not have beacon information, so they're going to be playing... Oh, excuse me, I stand corrected. Looks like they will have some beacon information, as they will know where that third zone is going to be going, or second zone, I should say, excuse me. So you can see that they're actually making a nice little early rotate here, just on the, what I like to call the zip lines. This is, you know, reminds me a little bit of a jungle gym. You know, when you pay a little bit of money, you go out with your friends and you find somewhere to make a day of it. Find the zip lines, one end to the other. I'd let you go first, by the way, Dan. I'd catch you. Actually, you know, I'd go first so I can catch you at the other end of the zip line.
Yeah, usually you send me first, so then I'm the bait. It's a very different story there. You were trying to make it look like you were the nice person, but you always send me first and make it... Anyway, we won't talk about that because you're just mean in all games that we play. Anyway, this circle is going to be moving north, as you say, and there's already, what, like 10 teams that have got within this next circle. Again, very similar to what we saw just a couple of weeks ago when we last had our last Pro League matches that we casted. And it was early rotates, it was getting in, it was Watson fences, it was defensive legends being so important to set up. But then it's those information characters like Seer, maybe even a Bloodhound as well if you want to throw that in. You are going to be having those people and those characters to ensure that you can get that info early. But already you can see a little bit of a skirmish happening right now, and info could be very important.
Well, this is not a good skirmish because Crypto is having an effect on the lobby. You can get your fences down as much as you want, but that EMP is going to just remove them immediately. And Ember, who had a great spot, they had Watson fences down, they had a gen down. Now look at the situation they find themselves in. Scarpering away, and it's IG International, Invictus Gaming, using that EMP to take priority of the position that is in front of them. So a nice little push from them, again, showing how that chess game is continuing to evolve here in all regions of the Pro League. Of course, you're going to see legend compositions changing. How do we counteract what seems to be the popular choices at the moment? And with Watson coming back into the meta as, you know, the legend who is going to do what she's always done, right? Get those fences down, get you solid positioning. When you're seeing those EMPs come in, you can see why Crypto is having those effects on the lobbies.
I just love that they're playing Crypto and Watson as well. Like, it's literally the counter for Watson, but you throw a Watson in there as well because you're like, well, we can counter yours, and then we can put up our own fences after we've destroyed and taken your area. I love it. It's the kind of be aggressive, push, take the position off of other teams so that you're not left in one of those kind of tough positions just outside of zone, or maybe don't have one of the priority buildings. I think aggression at the right time is the key in Apex Legends. If you leave it too late or if you go too early, you can really get punished. But if you can time it to perfection, you are going to get so much rewards. That will not just be placement points, but it will be kill points as well.
Well, it looks like Pioneers do not have beacon information from the looks of things. Na'Vi do, though. And it looks like Na'Vi are going to be having a little poke and a prod at Pioneers. But for now, it looks like things have calmed down. For just a second, both teams are going to allow each other to breathe and realize that this isn't maybe the fight that they want to take. I'm sure that if KCP had the information of the armors that were available to Na'Vi, certainly had the HP advantage if the fight was to break out. So maybe it's going to be a case of KCP being the aggressors if they do get that information, looking for early KP right in the northern part of Storm Point here. But Ascend, we mentioned what a game and what a series of games they had last time we saw them. Well, they're set up already, Dan. Right in the middle of zone. They've got a very, very defensive composition as well. And I always think it's great for placement points. If you got the Newcastle, and we saw the effects that that had, of course, in one of those end zones last time we saw these gentlemen on our screen. But how do you get your kills? That's the question for me. If you've got two defensive legend, what ability and what weapons do you try and pick up to make sure that you're not just getting to end zone, but you're having the ability to convert kills towards a first place as well?
Yeah, I mean, what Ascend did in those 2 weeks ago was the 3 back-to-back victories, and 2 of those were on Storm Point as well. Their positioning was incredible. They always seem to know where that circle was going. I know there are IGLs who seem to have a better idea than others, it would seem. It's like they're trying to find out this perfect formula. Well, whatever it was, whatever the formula that Ascend were drinking, they certainly found it last time we saw them playing. But then they've had a week off. Is that going to be a little bit rusty for them? Are they going to now be in a difficult situation where they are going to be a little bit out of sorts in this first game? But you've got to make sure you are on top of things right from the get-go here, as now we're watching Corpa make their way into the next zone. Of course, Zone 1 is closing, so those who haven't got the beacon are going to have information now onto where Zone 3 will be.
Well, E6, who got towards endgame many times last time we saw them, are currently stuck in zone and being gate-kept in the most horrible way possible by 3 of the most talented players than we have in the Apex Legends Global Series. Now, something hasn't quite clicked for Gaming Gladiators in the first few weeks of action that we've had in front of us. They are currently sat down where they don't want to be, right down at the bottom of the table. But taking out E6 early here, I mentioned how just one team fight can breed confidence to a team. If Gaming Gladiators get on top of E6 here, manage to take this fight and win it against a team who seems to be winning so many team fights, it could just be that little spark they're looking for.
At the moment, just puffing their chests out, firing a few warning shots across to one another, but neither is really going to achieve much from this. Looking at compositions, looking at Legends, Mark, it does look like we have one Catalyst in the lobby right now. A 95% pick rate of Valkyrie, though, so that's to be expected. Everyone really using that for the rotations, making sure that you are going to be able to get into those endgame circles.
Well, at the moment, Gaimin Gladiators just holding the line at the moment. They've got Watson fences down below them, just protecting the choke behind. So you would imagine that one player is kind of tasked as well of making sure that the flank doesn't come in, because this fight is taking longer and longer, and we know that the audio cues can be heard all over Storm Point. And if a team fancies a little bit of a third-party opportunity, the longer that the seconds tick down and elapse, these two teams try and fight, there might be another opportunity for a team to move in. But both teams showing each other good respect at the moment. Nobody really being able to create the opening. And if you're looking at armors, it's pretty balanced across the way. The Seer already been expended as well.
Yeah, there's a lot being sent, a lot of resources being used at the moment, and that really does kind of show how worried you are about a fight. Also, how much you respect the other team. Perhaps you know who the other team is because of drops and rotations, but it's the Gaimin Gladiators who are going to be the aggressors at the moment, just kind of holding out this team who has to move into the next zone. They are going to be gatekeeping Element 6 very heavy indeed. So K-Swinny and the rest need to be thinking about making a move. How are they going to make the rotation? Are they going to go for a Valkyrie ultimate? Are they going to try and use Bangalore here to try and create some smoke so they can get vision away from the other team and just try and move clear of this gatekeeping?
Well, look at this now. Like I mentioned, the longer that this fight goes on, the more predictable it becomes for a team to try and get involved. And that team is Corpa. They are currently sat behind both E6 and Gaimin Gladiators. And E6 have recognized this, Dan. They've decided, hey, do you know what? We're going to start a med train. We're going to drop some heals to each other. We're going to take a completely different direction. But look at this. Now you're seeing a little bit of Rampart, I believe that was, getting involved. Maybe some shots coming down from another team who's involved in this little scuffle. All of a sudden, this has become a very popular area to be involved with.
You are right. We have one Rampart in the lobby. We have one Bangalore, one Loba, one Newcastle, and one Catalyst. Those are your kind of off-meta picks that we have in the lobby right now. Everything else is a little bit more standard. We'll see whether the Rampart pick can help Phoenix Legacy here and whether they can get set up, and maybe Sheila can come down as well to really deal that damage.
Well, E6 are deep in zone at the moment because of the fact that, like we see, Phoenix Legacy in this position. They also have E6, they have Gaimin Gladiators in this position that we saw, and another team just on the outside trying to cause problems. We have to see a fight break out at some point, though. There is only 45 seconds until this zone starts to close. It looks like that Gaimin Gladiators have found an opening here. They've managed to get good damage down. Now Leogri moving in to finish off some of these damage.
Yeah, should be easy pickings, really. You don't want to allow one player to go down, though. Leogri needs to escape, does escape just about. And Phoenix Legacy will get eliminated. Unfortunately, that hard-fought battle that they were trying to wind their way out of for so long, it just ends up being the exact same result as it may have been if they had gone a little bit earlier. Gaimin Gladiators, they'll be delighted with that, but now their attentions have to turn on moving into the zone themselves. Sure, they are on edge of circle, but they are not in the greatest of spots when we talk about endgame. So it's about healing up, getting whatever loot you've just been able to win through that engagement, and then planning starts to happen now. Get your notepad out, start to think about where this next zone's going to be.
Well, the good news for Gaimin Gladiators, maybe they're not too aware of, is that they've completely locked down that side of the map now. Nobody rotating between them because E6, Element 6, they've taken a fight over at the wall. It's going to be Na'Vi, who are currently in an exchange of fire. E6 lose 2, and now K-Swinny left us last alive, and one of our best teams from the first time we saw these two groups is going to be eliminated at the hands of Na'Vi. But who is this on the third-party opportunity? Of course, it's Pioneers. Na'Vi eliminated. Pioneers picking their moment to strike.
Yeah, that's what you've got to do as a good team in Pro League, is you've got to make sure you take advantage of any easy KP that is sat quite literally outside of your window. They opened their curtains, they had a peek at the noisy neighbors, and they said, actually, yeah, we can get some free KP here. It was easy as you like. You can't just stay turtled down in a building. I know we see a lot of Watsons at the moment, but Corpa also having a fight, also having unfortunately, a lot of shots going their way.
Shots going their way. Clutch trying to move in and finish off this fight as well. The G7 Scout, a little bit of hip fire. We had a shoulder shake earlier. Now we've got a little bit of a hip shake coming in as they managed to win that fight. But is there any other teams in the vicinity? It looks like a gold bag is certainly going to be helping out with this revive to make sure that we're going to get back and we're going to have a little bit of shields to play with. So they will be able to reset here. Corpa win their first fight, and this is a tough zone for them as well. We saw them rotating from the very southern side of the map, and it's a very simple thing to kind of forget sometimes. But if you're landing on the southern side and you pull to the north, most of the fights are going to be uphill for you here on Storm Point.
Oh, nice grenade, and that is going to be able to get the knock initially. We'll see a lot of damage from J Savage at the moment. There's knocks everywhere on your kill feed. Now you've got to try and stay alive. I don't think there's going to be opportunity to bat unless you're quick, and he actually double doubts himself, will back away and just go for the shield cells instead. And it looks like Forge are just going to accept they get a little bit of KP, and now it's about trying to rack, try to stay alive, try and get those placement points. As we are down to 14 squads, Forge unfortunately will fall in the end. And of those 14, 7 currently within the circle, 7 currently outside of the next circle. So there's still a lot of work to do for half the lobby.
Yeah, it's a pretty smart decision to try and get out of that situation as last alive, because it was the third party, which of course you can see on your screen right now, 3 Muppets who moved in. So even though it didn't quite work out, unfortunately wasn't able to get away and got eliminated. We find ourselves at 14 squads with 3 Muppets controlling the middle of command center here. They do have Vexed pretty close to them though. Being noisy neighbors, so to speak, or being very quiet neighbors at the moment, as Turkish stars, excuse me, are going to be up at the very southern side of where this zone currently is. But if you, like you mentioned, Dan, it looks like there's a bit of a change of game plan, and I think that's just due to the playable area that's available. Not a huge amount of buildings to hold down. It's more open ground that you're trying to kind of show presence on with those Watson fences and with some nice shots coming out from Foze.
Yeah, I think that if you can see KP being a potential here and you know you're outside of the circle, you have to take advantage of it. Otherwise, if you are too slow and you just try and rotate into that zone when everyone's already taken the buildings that you speak of, then you're just going to be ending up with like 0 points, probably, let's be honest. And that's not exactly the way you want to start game number 1. So this is the other option, though, is rotating late, going for a Valkyrie ultimate, getting up into the skies, and then trying to pick where you want to land, because, of course, you get that passive information, but already so much damage that you're taking. By the time you land, you are going to be absolutely cannon fodder.
Yeah, this is going to be tough. Zerafa needs to get behind this box and needs to have the help, but the heals are going to be cancelled. Here comes the missile swarm as well, and Corpa are just struggling to survive here. A little bit of zone damage going to be taken as well, but not a lot of cover to play with. But somehow, Three Chicks has found somewhere to heal at least, but they have lost one. The Q will go down to try and get the lift back to him, but you would imagine the team inside of the building is going to be focused on finishing off that down to make sure that they're just down to 2. Gaming Gladiators as well. Gaming Gladiators eliminated, Dan, so another rough start for them.
Yeah, they just can't seem to get started, really, can they? There's so much expectations, I think, from viewers and from us as well, and to be honest, themselves, with how they should be playing. It just doesn't seem to be clicking this season. Maybe the meta not right for them, and they're going to have to try and find a resolution for that quickly. Otherwise, it's going to be a tough pro league for them. As I look at the overhead of the map and we see the information, it does look like this is going to be a fantastic pool for Alliance. They're in one of the better positions, but if I cast your mind back to a couple of weeks ago, Ascend had a similar circle to this, Mark, where they rotated in late, they utilized Valkyrie to get on top of one of the buildings, and then they absolutely annihilated everyone that was below them. So perhaps they'll go for something similar here. Kashira running the only Newcastle in the lobby right now as well.
It's going to be interesting here for us and how they play it. The decision's going to be a little bit easier for them. There's going to be more space available because we've already lost 7 teams. And with 30 seconds left on zone number 4, there are going to be some playable spots available. And especially with Newcastle, like you mentioned, those playable spots become a little bit more playable with the wall that can go down. But Vex Gaming going to be eliminated in the meantime. And this is, again, great news for Ascend. The more teams that go down, the more space there is to rotate. 11 squads now, as Turkish squads will be eliminated by Corp.
Yeah, Corp is still just about staying alive, trying to dodge anything that's shooting them, even the spiders that are coming into play with the fight as well. Horizon just got eliminated, so now we're into our last 10, but KCP are again getting aggressive in their area because they had to. KCP are having to move from the building we saw them last, and because of that, they are pushing other buildings to make sure they get involved in those fights and try and get towards that last circle. But as I say that, Pioneers eliminated in the kill feed, so the push, unfortunately, didn't go too well.
I mean, I've been really impressed with Corpa here. I have to say, this has been a really, really tough zone for them. The fact, like I mentioned, they have to rotate from the very southern tip of Storm Point uphill the whole way. Fire coming in front of them, and they've made it into the top 8, and they are still doing damage and still influencing these lobbies. This is a big game for them, but now you're having that zone start to have an influence. Zerafa trying to survive, but they should be able to pick up a few KP here on their way down to the grave, you would imagine. Ember go down. Alliance still alive, though. Corp are finally eliminated.
6 squads remaining. Alliance in the best position on the game right now. On the map, Storm Point is theirs, but Ascend still have the opportunity to do exactly what they did 2 weeks ago and arrive late and still disrupt things. At the moment, back against the wall, and it is going to be a castle wall that could come down for them, has come down for them. And that just gives them that extra bit of protection here as they can see the fight happening above them. The Seer ultimates come out. Alliance are still raining down on everyone that they see below them. And it looks like Alliance have decided to get aggressive here into this fight.
Doesn't surprise me to see Alliance getting aggressive, but Ascend, they won 3 games in a row. Last time we saw them on our screens. Let's jump into a listening now with WD Black.
3, 2, 1. Look at that guy. Look at that guy. I'm going.
I tell you, post if you're
I
fucked.
killed someone. I got 30, but it's only on my repeater. I can give you 20. Take it.
Guys, play here. We're fine here.
For me for a beat. I'm gonna. Oh, look at me, Cash. I need. Look at my health. Tell me when he's health. Tell me when he's health.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you.
They're low in the wall.
Okay, I'm
I
going.
don't have bullets. They drop down. They drop down. They drop down. We have to set up post. Set up post. This setup is not now. It's not ours.
I'm going. I'm going.
I leave that. I think we leave that. These fences.
No, I can use Alpha, man. I can use Alpha to set up.
Do you have Gen?
One cell, please.
No, I don't.
I have 0 cells.
I drop you a lot of that. Why do you need self?
Yeah, no, I have that.
Take self.
They're pushing below us, guys.
Well, we're jumping back into the game here, Dan. We come out of the listening because Ascend are getting pushed by LFO forever. And it's all up to post-kill, but the zone will take care of him. We're down to the final 2.
Alliance versus IG, but IG are down to just 2 players, and Alliance, they are going to swoop on in. This should be an easy dub for them if they play this correctly, Mark.
Black Hole goes in as well. The Wombo combo, add them all up. The Arc Stars, are they going to hit? Are they going to do the damage? A little bit of chip damage onto the shields, and now Effects decides with this RE45, it's time to go in, but the move is going to be slowed down for just a second here. Invictus doing what they can to hold the ground. Hackers is taken down to barely any HP, so now Alliance have to reset momentarily, but here comes Effect, and that is the effect Effect can have.
Yeah, the new addition, the new hot property on this roster, as everyone wanted a little bit of effect, but it looks like he's going to be the one who does the final bit of damage. There is going to be one down, does not matter. An Alliance who dominated the zone for what seemed like the entire game. We didn't get to see their POV because they were restricted. They were in a building, they were waiting, they were picking their moments, but they picked their moment absolutely perfectly, and they come out right at the right time, and it is going to be a victory. It is going to be effect, having the effect on this Alliance roster.
Now we're going to do our best not to use that line too often, unless he keeps doing what we just saw in that end game, because Effect doing what you want him to do if you're an Alliance fan, and that is come in and deal huge amounts of damage to back up the calls being made by Hackis. Alliance looking dominant in that first game, and I've got to say, since they picked up Effect as well in scrims, they've looked really, really strong in those team fights. Every single time I've seen them engage with another team, it feels like they're not even losing a player. It just seems like he is the spark they've needed. That extra little bit of heavy lifting is taken by him now, and I tell you what, Alliance looking dangerous. An easy game 1 win, it looked like they had a great position. They put some kills on the board as well.
Oh, they put a lot of kills on the board. It was the way they played those circles. I was kind of watching the minimap, and I was keeping my eye on Alliance because the circle kept coming close to them, and even though they were center circle, they would kind of keep one player. I think Yuki was staying in their building, and he was obviously the Crypto, he was sending out drones or whatever, but then the other 2 players were getting aggressive, they were pushing, they were trying to take advantage of anything that he was able to call out, anything that he had been able to do damage wise, and that kind of 2-for-1 split really worked out for them. They wiped 3 different teams just doing that in a 2 versus 3 essentially, and of course using the information from Yuki. So impressive from what I just saw.
Yeah, I love the way that Alliance play. You have that anchor, like you say, but then you send out Hackis and Effect to see if they can do a little bit of damage, pick up some KP on the 3Ps, hold that ground, and just hold as much space as they can. That's what Alliance do best, and that's why we are seeing them, of course, take home that win. But Dan, I mean, it was an interesting game for sure. We saw a lot of teams falling around that sort of 4th zone or so due to the fact that it was pretty much out in the open for the majority of the time. A lot of teams rotating from the south were having a very tough time to move through that open ground. No surprise to see that. But I was a little bit surprised with the way that KCP actually played that game. It seemed like they were trying to hold out the northern side for so long. And we saw teams consistently rotating through. And then when the wall started to get a little bit more populated, maybe the timing on the push wasn't perfect for them. Maybe they were the ones that got aggressed on and just didn't have time to reset. We'll have to, of course, go back and watch the VOD. But it's always surprising to me to see if you're in a position like that where you have, the ultimate high ground essentially on the zone, not to try and dominate a little bit earlier on, be a little bit more aggressive than what we saw.
Well, again, I was fortunate enough to be able to watch the map overhead and see the Pioneers' story, and it was a case of the zone pulled away from them. They got aggressive onto another building, and Just so happened another team as well did. So there was 3 teams kind of scrapping. They lost that fight, and it was just how the cookie crumbles. That's how Apex Legends can be sometimes. But as we look back at the highlights from Game 1, it was action-packed. It was fights right from the very get-go. We thought it might be a little bit slow, but suddenly all these teams merged together. There was a few moments where they would stand off from one another, but then a third team would arrive and really speed things up. And ultimately it came down to positioning for a lot of these teams who had been able to rotate to those early areas so they could get those shots down, they could get those positions so they can ensure they get that extra KP.
I want to give a shout out to Corpa as well. We saw them on our screens for quite some time in that game, and rightly so as well, because they were moving from a very southern landing spot all the way to the northern side, through the center of the map as well, with so many teams surrounding them, kept finding places to play, kept finding KP in front of them as well. And to be honest with you, if you're dropping on the south side of Storm Point and you put up that many points in a game, I think you're going to actually be pretty happy with that final result. So a shout out, of course, to Corpa, but Ascend, again, great positioning from them towards that end zone, but this time just not able to convert on that final team fight they really needed to win if they wanted to take home those big placement points for first place.
Yeah, we had 5 teams in that last circle, and unfortunately with an odd number there was always going to be a third party. As soon as you get in that engagement, in that 3v3, you need to be aware of who's going to be pushing from behind you. Where is that last damage going to be coming from? Also, got to give credit to IG. In this last fight, they were down to 2, managed to get up to 3, and they did some real damage to Alliance. They made Alliance worry. I think Alliance considered the fact it was going to be an easy game. It was not in that final circle. IG definitely made them work for it.
Well, it's a very nice looking game here for Alliance. I know Christmas is a little bit of time away still, but that's certainly a present you want to open if you're an Alliance fan. That is a 24-point game for them in game number 1. But like you say, Invictus, a good game from them as well. 14 points on the board, Ascend right up there. But those 3 teams really taking the points away. But I mentioned Corpa, Dan. Corpa, they managed to finish in 7th place, but picked up 7 KP alongside it. 10 points overall for them.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting as the season comes to an end. Who's got points through placement? Who's got points through kills? Where was the more success rate when it comes to those statistics? But certainly important that when you are in a circle that isn't favoring you, you do get aggressive, you do try and take that KP where it's showing. In the bottom 10 of the leaderboard, another disappointing finish for the Gaming Gladiators, and I'm sure they're going to get frustrated that we keep highlighting their disappointment, but until they show us the team they once were, we're always going to be left scratching our heads saying, you know, where are these guys? Where are the team that used to dominate this region at times?
Well, Element 6 as well, a little bit of a slow game for them. And of course, the standings overall are going to look very similar to what you just saw. This is Alliance, of course, at the top of the leaderboard. A 10-point differential between them and IG after that first game is done and dusted. But the good news is, we always say, if there's a point sponge in the lobby, Dan, it means that everybody else has still got a lot to play for as these games do progress. But Alliance, I mean, they've looked amazing so far. The question is, can Alliance keep that momentum up? Usually, Dan, they're a little bit of a slow team at the start, but today they're looking extremely strong.
They are looking extremely strong. I think that Alliance, ever since they've had the pickup of effect, they were always going to be kind of the worry team for a lot of these squads. They know what Alliance is capable of. We've seen scrims, the success that they've had in them as well. I think this might just be the beginning of this Alliance roster.
Well, it's time for us to send our congratulations, of course, to Alliance, but also jump to a quick break before we get into game number 2. We'll be back in just a few moments with more Pro League coming your way.
WD Black, the official storage partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to the EMEA Pro League for the Apex Legends Global Series. Game number 1 goes to Alliance in quite some style as well, Dan Gaskin. Very impressive performance from them, and I tell you what, Storm Point started to look like a little bit of a home for them all of a sudden.
Yeah, it seems like they were cozy. They had their feet up. They were on the sofa. They were watching some TV. They had a little peek out the window every now and then and said, all right, we'll kill another team. And then it gets into that final circle, and then things start to get a little bit more serious. They made sure they were watching all of the angles. They were being aggressive at the right time. I think Alliance really played that down to a T, and I can't wait to watch it back from their POV, because when I was watching it on that map overhead, I was like, wow, they're really pushing this as a 2. oh wow, they've really won that fight as a 2. And honestly, just the way they were able to show the aggression at the right times, I think they bullied the lobby in those final circles.
Well, bullying the lobby is what they're going to look to do again, led, of course, by the IGL Hackis and the new addition of Effect. Yuki, of course, impressed everybody who was watching on game day number 3. But as the groups jump back into the dropship and find their way down to their POIs, A versus B, of course, the group that's going up against each other today. The question for me is, who is going to challenge Alliance in this lobby? The zone was pretty central, slightly northern, of course, so a little bit of a rough one. Maybe for those teams landing down on the southern side of Storm Point here. But as we wait with bated breath here, Dan, once again, we always love to see where that zone is going, and it's only just a few moments away from finding out for ourselves.
Yeah, because it kind of gives us an idea of who has a real chance of winning the game. The stats don't lie. Those who land on a POI and the circle pulls close-ish towards them have a better opportunity of winning the game. We know that. It's more miraculous when we see teams who are so far away from the zone actually able to pull off a victory. As you can see, Alliance didn't have to travel that far, but now they're going to have to go a little bit further as we head into the southwest region of the map, down towards Barometer and Cenote Cave. So those teams who are landing in those kind of areas, especially those with beacons, look down at Cenote Cave, you have a beacon down there. That is going to be prime position to get that info, rotate early, and set up accordingly.
And for Alliance, it's going to be a little bit more of a longer trip for them. This time, they're going to have to go from north to south, but with the way that Alliance have been playing, we know, I mean, historically, Dan, these guys have almost mastered playing edge. And when you're working as well on Storm Point, moving from north to south, it's very different circumstance to if you're walking from the south to the northern tip of it, because of the fact that, of course, you just have that height differential, right? You have the ability to hold the high ground in those fights. You have such good vision over a lot of the action that's happening in front of you. And if you have got someone like Hackis, who's just kind of using Seer, of course, to get information, he can pick fights so easily for his team. And when you've got the 2 backing him up who have been firing the guns so effectively, this could be another good zone for Alliance, even though it feels like this is a million miles away right now.
Yeah, and excuse me, earlier I said about Yuki on Crypto, but I meant, of course, playing Valkyrie, and just the way that they've been able to manage this game and the way they've been able to use the aggression of Horizon has made such a difference, I think, for Alliance. And looking across again at the legends that have been picked, the one Catalyst that we had is no longer in the lobby. That has been taken out, so it doesn't look like we're going to see much Catalyst action on our screens today. Still, 1 Rampart, 1 Bangalore, 1 Vantage in the lobby, so that's going to be something a little bit different, and then Newcastle as well. So we'll see whether those off-meta picks can really make a difference. But as for the actual compositions, we're seeing, Mark, a 95% pick rate of Valkyrie, a 75% pick rate of Seer, and a 55% of Watson. So that's kind of your average composition between those 3.
Look how quickly Ascend are rotating again, already leaving their central zone around Jurassic Park where they like to drop, and looking to find a little bit of a position here. Already utilizing the Valkyrie ultimate as well. So Ascend, their game plan is very, very obvious. It is get to zone as quickly as possible, win the race to one of the spots that they think they can hold down, and then, of course, with the composition they have, the Watson and the Newcastle, they won't be moving for quite some time. So I think weaponry is also going to be interesting to see. Oh my goodness, it might have just caught someone off guard here. The Crypto has to Scarpa, has to run, but he's not going to be able to. Poor old Jules, taking his time, doing a little bit of looting. That's how quickly Ascend have just rotated, by the way. Someone is still looting.
Caught with his tail between his legs. Unfortunately, just realized he couldn't get away there as well. But yeah, that's what Ascend have got to try and do. In some of these zones where it's going to be pulling a little bit further away from you, you have to move fast. And now that's going to be frustration for Game of Drones here. And then a 2-man situation. It's always a decision, Mark. Do you try and go for that final player? Do you try and pick them back up? Do you assume the other team continues on their rotation? Or do you just kind of bail and hope to play the rest of the game as a 3? It's, again, going to come down to your knowledge of the other teams, your knowledge to how people are tending to play, but it looks like Ascend are leaving that. They are going to continue their rotation, so there is still a chance that Game of Drones could come back to all 3.
Yeah, I wonder if Ascend kind of just saw that information using the Valkyrie passive. Of course, there was one player just so split, they were like, you know what? We might as well just pick up this KP. And 3 of us drop on him. There's no way that he can really do anything to get out of that situation. Bitfix Gaming, by the way, eliminated early on here. But I think it, from the fact that they have just left that fight, they haven't tried to pursue it, I think that you're seeing Ascend maybe just got a little bit of a free KP going their way now as they continue what was their original plan to get that building they want to hold. Speaking of moving through Jurassic Park, we've already seen Ascend do that, and now we're seeing Horizon a little bit behind them, as you can see.
Oh, but Gaming Gladiators, unfortunately, in a scrap. And I say unfortunately because it looks like there's another team also in the vicinity, and that means the Leogri is just going to have to run IG on the other side of things. And again, Gaming Gladiators going down pretty early. Yes, there is one player remaining, but the rotation has not gone according to plan. And Invictus Gaming, who came second in the previous game, disrupting everything on Gaming Gladiators' rotation.
I mean, Leogri's doing what he can here. You can see he's just picked up a knock onto a player from Heroes as well. So you're also hearing a respawn coming above him. That could be Game of Drones, maybe looking to do that. But IG are looking to finish this off at the moment. You can see trying to hunt out where these final players are. That's going to be one of the downs finished, and it's also going to be a little bit of damage being done to numerous teams in the vicinity. I just feel Gaming Gladiators taking that fight out in the open. Did they choose to take that? Was that a fight that was forced upon them by another team just being taking a very similar timing on their rotation? We'd have to, of course, watch it back, but it just seems like a very, you know, not very characteristic play coming in from Gaming Gladiators once again.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it comes down to other teams, and you often leave your fate into how another team plays. Are they going to be super aggressive out of nowhere? Are they going to change their rotation out of nowhere as well? Speaking of, Vex Gaming looking to get aggressive. 162 from Unlucky, and now Full sends it with the Eva 8, and that's going to be a wipe. 3 Muppets look like 3 Muppets when Vex are on the other side.
Yeah, that was a very, very clean fight from them. You can see that Tyler is down at the moment, and trust me, he's a man you want to get back on his feet. He is currently one of the players who has a game day where he put up 21 kills, joint first place overall with Lufka, of course, from Ascend. So both those players, the heaviest slayers that we've seen in a day's action so far, and getting him back on his feet, so important, of course, for the success of Vex. 4 squads already eliminated here. We're seeing a very fast-paced game. We're also seeing the medkit, of course, taken down to the wire. As I gotta say, every time I see someone popping it, even though I know they've timed it perfectly, you just wonder, like, one bullet, whatever it might be, they don't, it just scares me, man. Just get the medkit off. It scares me.
Playing with fire, that's for sure. I mean, I've done it and got it wrong far too many times that I would like to admit. As we look at Vex and how they're now going to move in, it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of teams are going to bank on Barometer here. Out of the, I think, 6% times we've seen the zone pull to the southwest of this map, it has ended on Barometer. So I think that is going to be a heavy bet for a lot of these sides in and around Barometer. It's just about where you go, all right? Because Barometer is a big place. It's not just going to finish in one circle. There are several different circles we've already seen this season. So we'll see whether people go for a more southern, more northern approach. But looking at the map, it looks like southern Barometer is probably where people are going to end up.
We can see the IG are looking to finish things off, and I wonder if that is the last player alive from Gaming Gladiators, or if Leogri had already been taken down. But for now, Invictus looking to hold their ground once more. It's actually Horizon who are on the other side of this fight, looking to do a little bit of damage. I'm pretty sure that Vex were rotating through zone behind them, so they'll have to be extremely careful on how they play this situation. But for now, they've got the fences down, they're showing presence, and that is kind of like part A of what you want to do when you've got Watson in that composition. So Mimu, he's got a charge rifle as well, which certainly can do some damage. And I've got to say, Dan, I've become that guy in ranked. I picked this thing up because it is very easy to use, and it's a lot of damage for sure.
We use whatever tools necessary to give us the extra kills, all right? That's what's important. And exactly the same for these competitive players. This is for, you know, the biggest tournament in Apex Legends. You've got to make sure you are getting those points on the board so you can qualify for the biggest of tournaments when we get to playoffs and then championships. The area where IG were, by the way, is kind of southern Barometer, and the circle is pulling that way. So they're in a fantastic spot, as are Ascend and a Horizon. Those are going to be your 3 guards of the southern zone. But then the likes of KCP are going to be central zone on the northern side. If that circle goes between these two teams, there's going to be a lot of water in that final circle. Very difficult to navigate those circles, and I'm sure that teams will have a plan, but whether that plan will actually come to fruition, we'll have to see.
Phoenix Legacy, of course. G-Dolphin being one of the new additions to this team, making Rampart his own. And showing that off-meta picks, like you say, can still have an effect. And trust me, if the Sheila is on the battlefield and a couple of teams run out into the open, then that is going to be free KP for days. But for now, it looks like they're just fighting their way into zone, just trying to hold down this position. There's a Seer ult that's gone down as well. And you have to wonder, is that an aggressive one? Is that a defensive one? Just to try and hold this position. Looks like they've got the information now. There's a team inside. They might be out of third party here as well, because there's EKO and KCP who are fighting. And here comes Sheila to have a little bit of a sing. It'll be Phoenix Legacy who eliminate EKO, but also look at KCP. They're in the kill feed as well. They're still alive, though.
Yeah, KCP watching from a distance, watching from a more safe area, it would seem. But I believe there is going to be a few rats in the vicinity. So you've got to be very careful that you don't come across a rat just waiting in the corner. It might draw you in the back. Could really ruin your game. So you've got to be checking all those angles if you are rotating into these circles. Our late rotators, by the way, Alliance and E6. We knew Alliance was going to be one of the later rotators in this game because they've had to come so far. But they started in the kind of northeast area of the map as we saw them land. But now they are kind of on the west side of the map. So they've had a full rotation around the top side, Mark.
Yeah, they've got E6 behind them, though, who are going to be moving through zone. And as we know, the way that E6 like to play, you would expect them to be heavily looted. But the same can be said for Alliance. We saw them, you know, doing a little bit of work in the armory to make sure they got everything they needed to be strong in team fights. And speaking of Alliance, we see them on our screens right now. And now we see again, Dan, Gaming Gladiators eliminated. And at this point, I think we have to kind of say, next game, it's almost a now or never situation for them. But Alliance, the winners of our game one, they're making their rotation. Like you said, moving from the northeast to the western side of this circle is very interesting. Let's see what the play call is from Hackis as we jump in to a listening.
A little bit, like if they fly towards
Flying on you, Hackis. Oh no, they're going around. West side.
it's good. If they run into this, maybe this
Yeah,
is
they went
the
this
same
side.
team.
We should maneuver that area.
There's a full free. They might go tunnel and fight them.
Okay, that's good. If they fight tunnel, we just rip it out.
Yeah. Perfect. Only watch your northeast. Really careful on that walk up.
Clueless bogey out there.
Yeah, I'm watching.
Really, really careful on that. That's your only threat.
They're barcoding, I think. I'm not sure. Well, we should be able to walk up again.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Dennis.
These guys went around C node, so. Yeah, they went. One is outside right now. We could beam him in the back, maybe. He doesn't see me.
Yo, he's not looking.
3,
Hackis.
2. Wait, so he went back inside. He went back. There's like another guy here, though.
Definitely two at least.
They're crypto, I think. Yeah, they're crypto. Shooting back.
Crypto, shoot Crypto. Crypto's like AFK. 150 on Crypto. A crack you guys, well.
We can shot in the back, though.
Crypto was AFK, bro.
Fucking ceiling, too.
Enemy in view there.
Let's go bridge with me.
Okay.
The big castle, these guys don't fucking. They're fucking.
We jump back into the game. Alliance made their play. They weren't able to get the kill that they wanted to, but Vex now in a scrap, in a battle. And it's fisticuffs outside of the hotel room bar at the moment. And Sanya from Na'Vi boots the door down, but he's going to be met by the Valkyrie, who manages to escape.
Really impressive from Sanya at the moment. Going to bait the res. Try and secure a little bit of KP. But it's a 1 versus 1. Such nervy times because you know you can potentially get extra teammates up. This could be the difference between securing, what, 5 points or maybe even 15, if not more, depending on how far you can get. Kara and the G7 Scout to work with for Sanya. Plenty of utility as well. You've got all the bats and shields that you could ever ask for, but you've got to hit those shots, Mark.
You've also got a knockdown shield to work with, and Sanya, who was on top of that fight for HP, is now on the other side of it, but Unlucky took a little bit of damage as well. Now he's going to actually try and stick this res by the looks of things, and that could be massive, but here comes the push. He has to change that decision almost immediately, but he did not reload his gun, and Na'Vi will be eliminated. Unlucky wins the clutch 1v1.
Unfortunately, no teammates to pick back up, but the adrenaline rushing through him, and I'm sure that Unlucky will be delighted with that one. And Vex stay alive as we now have 13 squads remaining, and also Unlucky the kill leader in this lobby. So plenty of KP to work for Vex. They are going to have to move a little bit, and it looks like Ember are closing in on Vex location, but elsewhere, Pioneers also just kind of surveying the land at the moment as they sit quite pretty in the current circle, but they will have to move a little bit for the next one.
Good shots coming in here from Nasky as well with that 301. The old trusty 301, one of the most consistent guns at any range in Apex Legends. Vex Gaming are eliminated, so even though you saw Unlucky win that big 1v1, it wasn't enough for him to rat his way down to some more placements. But here comes G-Dolphin. He's coming in. Sheila, she loves a song, Dan. Let's see what the verse is going to sound like.
Start singing, maybe. But unfortunately, just having to back off ever so slightly. Phoenix Legacy just in the circle, as you can see. There are a couple of teams around them that are going to make this very tricky, so it could end up they have to retreat, but if you can get the initial damage here, if you can do enough damage, it might just be the right time to push and get aggressive. But now we're going to see Sheila get whipped out by G-Dolphin, and the only Sheila in the lobby could be very damaging to the other teams that are on the receiving end.
There certainly could be. The only issue is the angles that you have available to take, and Pioneers are the team who are holding them out right now. Pioneers, you know the intensity is going to be there. What better time to jump into a listening with Pioneers?
Knocked. And you knocked one.
No, I knocked from a different team.
Oh, okay. Behind the wall, he got knocked.
Just ago.
Yeah.
Rampart.
I'm trying to break their shield.
Cracked it behind the wall, cracked behind the wall. He got a heal.
What? Horizon's knocked. Last guy.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to play aggressive, okay?
I'm getting shot in my back now. I can't really hold for you very well.
And this team is like wide picking you.
Yeah. I gotta come inside.
I hit the kill. No, I can't hold you.
Yeah, I can't hold you.
Okay, I'm backing.
They died.
They died. I'm one. They're gonna cancel my heal.
Okay, from where?
I'm phoenixing. It's not good. Yes, north.
I'm looking. I'm holding on the door.
I'm healing.
I think we're fine. They're pushing.
Yeah, we have to fight them.
They're pushing.
Yeah. I also top.
I'm selling up.
I'm staying bottom.
100 top. Crack one.
Play stairs, nice kid.
Yeah.
Look behind car.
I'm healing.
We'll jump back into the game as we see Pioneers manage to hold out Phoenix Legacy, but now they're holding out Element 6 as well. KCP are dominating this building.
Yeah, KCP owning everything that arrives at their very much door, but it's about where you go from here, because in 30 seconds, Mark, you are going to have to move if you're the Pioneers. So all this commotion is just delaying their rotation. Maybe they're thinking about KP, though. As Strafey goes down, it's Alliance who now join the party. And Alliance, as they did at the right time in the last game, they find the right time to push this game. They take control, they get the KP, and now they will be the team moving from west into this next zone.
But while all that commotion was going down, E6, they managed to get that res, but only for a moment. K-Swinny has to back up, even though he got the player back to his feet. Life in... He got immediately knocked, having found his feet back on the floor, but 10 squads remaining now. Swinny's so close to beating that parry, but has to cancel it, and now he has the zone closing behind him. E6 eliminated. Alliance once again looking strong as now they take to the skies, and somehow they bought enough time to get the Valkyrie ult into the sky as well.
Well, there's only two teams in this circle, IG and Ascend. Two teams who came second and third to Alliance just earlier. So now Alliance need to find a room to play. They need to find anything they can hide behind. And whilst they may look good right now, they are very vulnerable from that northern side that you can see on their screen. So that's why they're watching these angles. They're putting their back to the crates. They're not really too worried about the likes of Ascend and IG right now. Instead, they're looking at just closing out kills on those who are trying to cross the water. I said it can finish in the water and how difficult these circles can be, and you can see that on your screen right now.
Oh my goodness, Yuki is the whatever the opposite of a lifeguard is, that is what Yuki is doing right now. He is not going to help anyone. He is not David Hasselhoff. He is just shredding people as they try and cross. Ford go down as well. Heroes have been eliminated in these final moments, but Ascend still alive in this position we've seen him in for such a long time, Dan.
Yeah, so Alliance and IG holding out Horizon, Ascend holding out that last remaining team on the northern side as well, but we're down to just 6 squads, and Alliance looks like they're going to have to fight with their backs to the wall. Effect goes down. Yuki, last remaining player, will do what he can, but unfortunately Alliance go out in 6th, but a fantastic effort considering how far they had to come across the map. But it was IG who were already set up in this circle, and IG who have the best position in the game right now.
Yeah, Invictus looking really good, but Graceful's got to be so careful here. The 30-30. Absolutely decimated those shields and the health, and luckily got the gen down just in time. Almost caught in the animation there, which caused the problems for Graceful, but it looks like he survived for now. Now some shots coming in to try and hold off this push coming in from Ascend, and you know it's Ascend because you see that wall going down, but it's not going to be wide enough to keep Lufker on his feet.
2 versus 3. Ascend looking to get aggressive so that they could have taken that priority position we speak of. The res, of course, could come through from the Newcastle as well, and maybe IG recognizing that, but Corpa get eliminated. Kashira goes down, and IG have done what they needed to. They have pushed Ascend back, and now Ascend are going to run away with their tails between their legs.
Yeah, it looks like Ascend have lost a couple of players, as you say, which is going to make their run towards this endgame much more difficult. Post-kill, the only player alive, and look at him. He's got Ember behind him. IG have got to look at this as well because they might have a free KP. That's the end of Ascend. Ember do move in, and it will be Young Hong Kong who does get that final kill. So Ember into the top 3, but IG is the story of this game, Dan. Like you say, early positioning, it's been so good from them, but we mentioned how influential the Kraber can be, and if you look at Bavis right now, that man's got a Kraber in his hands.
Also, the other issue you've got to look at is IG are the meat in the sandwich right now. They're between the two teams, and if Ember and Horizon push at the same time, it could be difficult. Ember are doing the damage. Noises goes down. This could be catastrophic for IG.
Oh, and they're just shredding them at the moment. They can't get them back. They're trying to cancel their heals. Young Hong Kong's going to get away himself, but surely that's just going to be the opening for a third party to come in. Invictus have been eliminated, but it looks like they're going to be able to get a little reset here. So as you say, Horizon is a 2. It's a 3v2. They didn't take the advantage in that situation. Maybe they needed to win that game.
Oh, 0-0 will send it on to Ember, but unfortunately gets absolutely destroyed by the 3, and now it's a 1 versus 3, and what would seem is impossible here right now.
Surely this is going to be the end of the game here. It will be Ember who made that late move into the zone to pick up the first place finish. They will be your champions. But I think the points will be very interesting to look at the end of this game, Dan, because there was a couple of teams who seemed very heavy in those KP.
Oh, KCP got a lot of kills, Ascend got kills, IG also got kills despite finishing in 3rd place, but Ember, their difficult rotation across the water actually ends up being successful. They picked the right time. They managed to avoid the sightlines of some of those teams, thanks, I think, to Ascend, who moved into that circle quite early, and a lot of thought process went towards Ascend. IG especially had to worry about them, but another frustrating one, I think, for Invictus Gaming. 2nd and then 3rd, both times they would probably think they had the chance of winning it, but how often does that, a situation in Apex Legends where there's 3 teams left, and if you are the team in the middle and you get pushed, it's so difficult to try and stay alive.
That's very, very true. We'll bring John back in now after game number 2, because we've had 2 different winners so far fall out in Alliance and Invictus Gaming, and 2 big names who we were hoping were going to perform at this kind of level.
Yep, you hit the nail on the head. 2 teams that we certainly highlighted to perform today, and what a start for Alliance. First place, dominant 24-point win, followed by a consistent top 5 finish as well. We'll see what that's going to do for them in the overall standings, but should do some goodness as we, of course, bring Gaskin back to the conversation. We're going to give Mark a little bit of a break here going into game number 3. Gaskin, so far, from what you're seeing here, obviously Alliance performing well, but anything else standing out to you?
I think Ascend's consistency in their rotations is really paying off, and having the addition of the only Newcastle in the lobby is working out as well. I think Newcastle offers a lot of utility that a lot of Legends don't, so having that extra ability to both res and get the shield down is helping out Ascend right now. But I'm loving seeing the kind of differences in Legend selection, John. I know you're a fan of a bit of variety as well, so seeing these off-meta picks, the Rampart featuring as well for G-Dolphin, it just makes it extra spicy in these lobbies.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. Obviously, a sad day that we had to say rest in peace to Lifeline for competitive Apex. E6 walking away from the Lifeline pick. You saw them tweeted out a little bit ago, or at least starting today. But they're going for a pretty. I think they're running default team comp of Seer Horizon and Valkyrie. Let's take a look at the highlights from game number 2 and see what other comps are on display. And you mentioned it, the only Newcastle in the lobby in the hands of Ascend, which is a bit surprising here, Dan. And so talking about that, obviously in NA we see a lot more Newcastle. Only Ascend rocking Newcastle here as you walk me through the highlights.
Yeah, I feel like people are starting to lean away from Newcastle in this region, and I think that maybe comes down to some of the aggression that we're seeing, the more Horizon picks coming in as well. Alongside Seer, you do have the ability to play a little bit more aggressive, and even though there are Watsons that are playing very defensive and setting up in areas, with Cryptos also featuring quite heavily, and I think around, 25% we've seen featuring, you are going to see a lot of those fences just get taken down. So it's going to be so difficult to try and stay up if you are one of those Watsons teams. So we're seeing people trying to find more of an aggressive comp that can kind of match it. But also it goes from region to region. If you start to see a lot of Newcastles, it means that you can also play Newcastle. But with a lack of Newcastles, it means you might be punished if you start to try and include it.
Well said. I think you've seen the meta shift a bit already so far in EMEA. It's going to continue to do so throughout the Pro League, which is always fun to analyze and fun to discuss. The Kansas City Pioneers looked like they were having themselves a great game, but of course ended up getting focused by every single team. Despite the Watson fences in their hand, they get pushed by Alliance, who is playing the exact opposite of Ascend. You saw Alliance playing hard edge and doing it to some success.
Yeah, really successful. It's so tough with the rotation that Alliance had. That's why you've got to commend the 6th place finish that they had with the kills they were able to get on top of it. They very easily could have got kind of held out earlier on, but they went for a very wide rotation through the northern side of the zone to find them on exactly the opposite side that they had landed. And I think that caught a couple of teams off guard, and that's where they found their success. But Ember, the team who had a very difficult push from the western side of the circle, were able to time it perfectly, take that fight with IG. They were probably very happy to work out that Horizon only had 2 players, otherwise it could have been a very difficult ending for them. But once they realized they were in a 3 versus 2, it meant they could capitalize on those kills, John.
Yeah, that's right. Guess what? They capitalized. They did. A 12-kill game, matching Alliance's score from game number 1. 24 points on the board for Ember. Alliance picks up 8 as well. So very aggressive edge fighting for Alliance, but Ember is going to certainly be in the top 2 or top 3 overall. Kudos to them. They're a team that was coming in not necessarily well secured or well cemented in overall standing, so they need a big game. Pioneers, though, again, disappointing for them. Not the finish they'd like here on Stormpoint. They got one more game, one more opportunity to close it out on SP. We'll see if they can do it. Vex Gaming with 7 kills, but the story for Vex has been, Gaskin, a lot of kills early, a lot of aggression, but inability to place. Almost all of their points are earned through kills. As we take a look at the series standings overall here, your thoughts on that?
I think that Vex points, the fact they got 8 and Horizon, who finished in second place, got 9, shows how different you can play this game, right? No kills plus placement can get you a lot of points, but a lot of kills and little placement can still get you around the same points as those who are kind of 2nd through 6th. But you're not going to get those big games. You're not going to have that opportunity to have that like 20+ point game that we see so many of these teams do, where they get kills plus placements. And I think as the season comes to an end, I think placement is going to matter more than kills ever so slightly. But it's about knowing when to play placement. It's about knowing when to go for kills. It really is down to that circle, down to where that zone is moving, John. Because if the zone is nowhere near you, you have to try and prioritize kills. You have to try and be aggressive. Otherwise, you're just going to get punished when you try and walk in late.
Yep, that's a great point. And in the end, multiple ways to play the game, which you love to see. But if you want to be a top 3 team, you got to be able to do both, at least 1 or 2 games out of the series. Otherwise, you're going to continue to hover in that 5th, 6th place where Vex has been for quite some time. Let's take a look at the final circle and final moment of that game. Dan, in that one, walk me through it.
So it looked like IG were in prime position. They were kings of the mountain. They had the Watson fences set up, but Ember moved in late, got their own Watson fences down, and they took this fight. And I don't know whether IG pushed a little bit too soon or whether Ember really were the aggressors and initiated it, but it seemed like IG weren't as ready as Ember was in that engagement. So I think IG maybe got caught off guard ever so slightly. And then once this was a 3 versus 2, I don't think there was any doubt in anyone's mind that Ember were going to win this fight. Horizon tried to get aggressive, hoping that Ember would have lost a player or 2. You can see 0-0, goes round to peek, and unfortunately he peeks into 3 boys who all shred him to pieces, and then Mimu, the last remaining on Ember, had really no chance in a 1 versus 3. You shouldn't see a 1 versus 3 happen at this level in Apex Legends unless you're seeing huge mistakes from that 3, no matter how good the final player is.
Yeah, I agree. Ember, kudos to them. They basically just snatched that game right from IG. They earned it by winning that 3v3 against Invictus. But surprisingly enough, yeah, you're not going to lose a 2v3. But Young Hong Kong had 1 HP, literally. No shield swaps were available. He kept looking for a shield swap. They had to heal up the old-fashioned way. They popped a med kit. They popped a shield battery. So if Horizon pushes that fight 10, 15 seconds earlier, and that's kind of the art, right? You have to know when to push your opportunities, especially if you're a team of 2 in a late game. They probably have a much better chance and potentially can win out that 2v3, but Horizon was just a little bit slow there.
Yeah, they were a little bit slow. I did see on the map head that one of them was still looting as well. I think they were trying to take the opportunity to get back up to a full state where they could get weapons, they could get shields, but it was just that little bit too slow. But unfortunately, that's timing. That's what can happen sometimes. I think they'll be happy with the 2nd place finish they got, considering they had no kills, considering they were playing with nothing for the entire game. They still got 9 points.
Yeah, I agree with you. And in the end, Ember takes the 1st place finish and earns it, taking out IG, as we said. And you might say, Ember who? I'm not really familiar with Ember as a Pro League team. Yeah, that's right. They qualified through. It's a rookie squad of 3 up-and-coming players from Denmark. Fricks and Co. absolutely dominate Bavis and Young Hong Kong. All 3 of them from Denmark, I believe. And they perform big time in game number 2. And that's what's been so interesting about our new Pro League. A lot of new names, a lot of new faces that have been able to shine. And in EMEA, it's really interesting. It's not as top-heavy as you see it in North America, where you have a clear 2, 3 to 5 teams that are your top dogs. In EMEA, it's really anybody's game. And any given Sunday or Thursday, you have an opportunity for a new team to step up. And so far, it looks like Ember has been that team. The question is, can they do it consistently here overall? Any other teams kind of like Ember that's really been, surprising you as a team you wouldn't have expected to perform so far, Gaston?
I mean, I guess I know that Vex have it in them, but seeing some of those fights happening, the aggression that we saw from Vex, I think they had a fantastic game there. They were just punished by the 3rd party in the end. With how important some of those 1v1s can be, there's a lot of pressure on these players, and I do think that you're completely right. When it comes to this region, it's so tight. You look at any one of these rosters and it feels like they could all have that game where they do get a victory, but we don't see as many pop-off games. We don't see the kind of the 30 bombs that could potentially happen that we have seen in other regions, and I think that's credit to how impressive every roster is. There is no easy pickings, really. Even those who qualify through challenges, they are still finding success here, and I love to see it. I love a region that is this closely contested, John.
Yeah, and any opportunity or any single pro league day, any team can step up to rise to the occasion, which you love to see as well. On the flip side, though, I think the opposite is true. We have teams that we expected to show up and perform and haven't necessarily, and that one is Gaiman. Gaiman Gladiators, again, we continue to highlight them. We don't want to talk negatively on them because they obviously are one of the best teams historically, but they got to wake up. We don't see them in the standings overall. We haven't seen them perform consistently in games number 1 and 2. We talk about this being a do-or-die type of pro league day for them as we're entering the halfway point. What do you want to see out of Gaiman here? What hasn't been working for them in your eyes, guys?
Yes, it's tough, isn't it? Because every time we've jumped on board with them, they've been caught in a fight, whether that be mid-rotation where they weren't expecting it or a third party arrives. It just seems to be there's an excuse for Gaiman Gladiators every time, but you've got to try and minimize those risks. You've got to try and do something a little bit different, whether that's going to be a composition change, whether it's going to be your method of rotation. Are you going to rotate faster? Should you be rotating slower? These are all the questions that they're going to be asking themselves, because individually we know they have the potential, they have the skill ability to take these fights, but they just seem to be caught off guard each time. So I'm hoping that the Gaiman Gladiators can find some of the form that we've seen previously when they were competing in other pro leagues, but for now they are struggling, that's for sure.
Well said. All eyes on Gaiman. For those that are not aware, Gaiman Gladiators, formerly FA Kitties, former Gambit Esports, the team that dominated the beginnings of the ALGS in EMEA, has been nowhere to be found. The first 3 weeks of Pro League. Can they turn it around today? That is the question. I want to point out, Ember won that last game. And actually, quick discussion point, Dan, not to disagree or kind of be the pessimistic one here in the discussion, but you always kind of make a point of the teams that are closest to circle have a clear advantage. The stats don't lie. If I recall correctly from Champs, the stats actually show that it was 50-50, split down the middle. And from what I've seen overall, I'd love to actually, if we haven't, a statistical breakdown, anyone that's been tracking it, or anyone in the community that, is passionate, wants to take a look, I'd be curious to see what the statistic is, because Ember wins that last game actually playing far from zone.
Yeah, championships, we saw it a much more even split. I think as the meta changed coming into this season, we've started to see it be more focusing around defensive legends and Watson coming back into it. Certainly the first couple of weeks was very zone heavy and those who early rotated. But now, especially in EMEA, with the meta shifting again, getting a little bit more aggressive here or there, I think we are going to see more teams, as you say, getting victories from a little bit further away. And I think that is good for the health of the game, for the health of the meta as well, because it means there's a bit more variety on who is winning those games, and it's not just about, oh, well, you had the zone close to you. There are some teams who are going to be able to prove that, and it makes it more impressive when a team gets a victory and they've had to travel the entire map because they've had to battle through some of these teams who have been set up for the entire game.
Yeah, that's a great point. It really depends on kind of where the meta is currently at. And at Champs, the Seer meta came out of nowhere, was so popular and so effective for teams like Furia and others that you were able to see a lot more edge teams win. But currently, Watson is in play. You see a lot more Newcastle in play. Speaking of Newcastle, we're switching over to Ascend. You see them rocking Newcastle right here. And that's why early rotates and being closer to zone has certainly been the advantage. But for those that are maybe new to competitive Apex, or not entirely sure what we're talking about, historically in Apex, there's been 2 playstyles or somewhere in the middle as a hybrid. Playstyle number 1, early rotate, and play defensive legends and use those defensive legends to secure placement points is the focus. Make it to late game, you'll pick up some kills there. Playstyle number 2, an edge fighting playstyle. You're constantly playing the edge of the zone, you're rotating in on the back end, and you're taking fights along the way as you slowly inch your way in, and then when you get to the late game, you hope that you can just bully your way into Godspot or into a position to win the game, or a hybrid of both. You see some teams that flex depending on where the zone pulls and can play both playstyles. A lot of discussion on does edge fighting or do edge fighting teams really exist anymore? Just because the comp is so is so different, the meta is so different. Right now we got Ascend dropping on a team again.
Yeah, great shots already from Ascend, just Valkyrying in, making sure they can get aggressive on a team that they knew was already up here, and they've got the first knock, and that means that this should be just cleanup crew now. Ascend are one of those squads that when they have the advantage, they usually press on it, and you are going to see them get that finish and take over this building. So Ascend trying to take high ground, trying to prioritize positioning already, but it is edge positioning right now. You can see on their minimap, they still have to move a little bit to get into the next circle, but this is what Ascend have done so well throughout these last few weeks of Pro League, is they kind of move in on teams, take their position, take their loot, and then they move again. They're constantly getting aggressive.
Yeah, well, hey, we got an opportunity to listen into Ascend in the fight here. Third party is looming. Let's jump into our listen-in here with Ascend.
Thank you.
On me one. Dead. 1v1.
Post. 1v1. Has him. He's pushing the other door.
This door.
He's pushing that door, post.
Just heal up. Pop a medkit if you need to.
I'm gonna close this door. He's not gonna push from this side. Just heal. He's gonna, the other guy's gonna open the door.
I know, no worries. I'm watching. I'm gonna head catch.
He kicked the door. He's going inside.
Hold on. Let me help you.
You're fine. He's gonna cancel rest. He's on me. He's going left. He's going left on your door.
What? Cash, you close the door.
Come on, man.
And it's going to be 3Tricks who clutches up in the 1v1 against Ascend to keep his team alive, despite that being a 2v3 overall. What a play showcasing the skill here for the Corporate Boys.
Yeah, so difficult to try and navigate those 1v1s, but a great time to go into the listening with Ascend, talking about who's holding what door, the information that's been sent across, whether you should res, whether you can res, are you going to get the opportunity to do so? But the Seer ability coming in amazing there, just being able to deny the res, I think really won that fight, because then suddenly he was out of sorts post-kill, he was out of position, and just unfortunately not able to hit the shots there with the Mastiff meant that he did go down a little bit earlier than he would have expected. Frustrating for Ascend, considering their success that we've seen as of late, but sometimes that is going to be how the cookie crumbles.
That's right, frustrating indeed, but I'm a bit curious as to why he went for the res, knowing he was going up against a Seer, kind of KYP, know your personnel, know who you're playing up against, and in that scenario, the res probably not the best decision in the 1v, and as a result, outpositioned, outclassed. Nice job by 3Tricks in the 1v1 against post-kill. But let's switch on over to Horizon, a team that we saw make it into the top 2 last game. Again, not many kills to their name, but they got the placement points. It was a meager 8 or 9 points that they have overall, that they're riding in the top 7 placement right now, but they're looking to go consistently in their back-to-back.
Beacon information, of course, very important here for Horizon, so they're kind of hovering around this area. They've got zone information. They could get it again as the zone 2 closes as well. As all these teams starting to move a little bit quicker into circle. As I look at the map overhead, there is a lot of squads already featuring on the southeast side of the map, kind of banking on a big old pull here. And that means that those who are on the west side are going to really struggle to get in the later stages. But 0-0 on the ability to kind of look around with the drone here. The drone was the word I was looking for. And just having the crypto on your squad can be so important in a Wattson meta. We see 5 cryptos selected at the moment. That's 25% of the lobby with the ability to take down these fences. So it is not as easy for Wattsons to set up and feel secure.
Every single fence deleted, but they're not going to be able to play off that action here. Forge should be secure on the high ground, and they had to be careful because we know that Vexed just took out Na'Vi nearby. So Vexed, one of the most aggressive fighting teams, not afraid to play and W key for position. So if you enter a fight, you're instantly going to get third-partied, and that's why, despite taking out some fences there, you didn't see Horizon try to capitalize. Thoughts on Horizon's position right now? I don't think they have a Wattson to their name, so they're a little bit exposed, but we've seen a few teams kind of win from those trenches. Do you think they're well poised here in this late game?
Yeah, they're in a pretty good spot over towards the area where they've been holding at the moment. Launchpad seems to be where everyone's kind of banking on, so you've just got to expect that there's a lot of teams that are going to be trying to take those areas off you. So it's about how you set up and how you defend, and are you in a position to quickly get aggressive when those teams do arrive. We saw the KC Pioneers doing it in game number 1 when teams started to land around them in the late game. They quickly pushed out of their building, got the kills, and then retreated back into their building. It's a very fine balance that you have to try and make sure you have positioning for. But the map is certainly getting busy over towards Launchpad. Everyone is sending it over there. There are buildings that you can play, but those who are outside of them at the moment are having a tough time, and that's why they're all just taking these pop shots at one another, letting them know they're there. There's the map overhead for you.
Oh boy.
You can see that congestion in the southeast side of the map right now.
Yeah. So as we take a moment away from Launchpad and over to our edge fighting teams, we have Element 6. You see at the top left of your screen there. Element 6 versus Phoenix Legacy in an edge skirmish. Will they end up taking this fight, or will they just peacefully coexist and rotate into zone? Eventually, though, they're likely going to run into each other. So if they don't fight now, they will later. And you saw that was actually Effects box there. I think Alliance out of this lobby. So that's going to open up an opportunity for other teams to step up. One of those teams, well, it could be Vexed. They dropped Launchpad. And because they dropped Launchpad, they had a beacon there. They had the intel. So they were able to not only pick up a couple kill points, 5 kills to their name, but they also should have their pick at Godspot overall here as 3 Muppets take some casualties.
3 Muppets just trying to get back up onto their feet, as again they're around Launchpad as well as what seems like the entire lobby at this point. Everyone trying to fight for a little bit of positioning, a little bit of map to play with, and as you can see, some better than others, because 3 Muppets do not have much to work with. Vex, however, they have a little bit more territory. They're being a little bit more sporadic with their placement because they can afford to kind of look for these teams that are around them. It looks like Vex are wanting to take a fight, which I'm not really surprised when you look at their composition with the Horizon coming in as well to give you that elevation to get above teams. And after what we saw in game number 2, we know that Vex have the possibility to get aggressive, and we know that they can win fights.
That's right. They've already done so. Not many teams will be gifted the zone right to their drop spot and a beacon, yet still have 5 kill points, as opposed to just saying, hey, let's be content taking God spot and chilling. They say, nah, let's hold a ton of positioning, and let's try and fight any team that contends for God spot. That's exactly what you saw right here. Bitfix Gaming with Lil Max coming from Middle East. They find themselves in a fight against Heroes. French squad picking up Uchako, former Kick Esports star. Here they are in their debut in a big 3v3 fight, but Uchako's going to go down early.
Yeah, goes down and needs a little bit of help now. Wrath is still alive. I'm going to be able to get this battery off. But where's the assistance? This is a horrible place to try and play. Try and navigate around all these bars down bottom middle. And now in a 1 versus X, this is going to have to go for a res potentially just to try and get any sort of help from a third party. But unfortunately, as always, Sia denies everything, John. And now Bitfix Gaming to come and just be cleanup crew here.
Yeah, that 75% seer pick rate in this lobby is going to come through. Lil Max and Bitfix Gaming with a big 3v3 fight against the Heroes. Let's switch on over to Element 6. We told you the fight against Phoenix Legacy will continue. There will be a next chapter to that one, and I believe this is it. We got Liffin, the new pickup for this squad, who's been an absolute rock star for them, having to go huge with Storm eating away their health.
Should be able to get in, should be safe, should be comfortable where they are. I think they're a little bit worried what could be coming from behind them as well. They will know whether another team is going to be in the vicinity. You can see the angles they're watching. They're very aware that if a team does arrive behind them, they're going to have first shot on them. But just like they know they're going to be rotating from that way, another team would also have the awareness that Element 6 were there. So they've probably moved off to a different location. I'm trying to see who it is. It looks like it's going to be Game of Drones who are in the same area. And Alliance also moved. Yeah, you're right. Alliance moved down on the eastern side.
That's right. Alliance was actually able to take out all 3 members of Phoenix Legacy. They are out. G Dolphin in his debut with this team. Still running that Rampart. Also announced he's coaching the Tripods in North America. So he's always trying to stay on top of his game as one of the best coaches and players, streamers, content creators. But right now, Phoenix Legacy needs to go big on World's Edge. They are out. I'm surprised at Alliance. We saw Effects Deathbox earlier. So I thought maybe they are out as a team. Looks like they're still in this game. I don't know if they got the res on Effects. It was Yuki that picked up all 3 kills on Phoenix Legacy. He's currently the kill leader of this lobby.
Well, I think what Alliance is going to try and do is rotate on the eastern side of the circle here and try and sneak into Launchpad, but it's whether there's already a team watching them. As for Gamer Drones, they are going to be moving now down towards the northern side of this circle. They were another team that I think E6 was a little bit concerned about, and they may well meet E6 if they keep going east here. They are going to run straight into them, but are they aware? I think E6 might have the jump on them if they're not careful, but of course, with the Seer, you're going to get that information, you're going to have that heartbeat sensor, and now suddenly they are well aware that E6 are in the area.
That's right. Big fight about to ensue, and guess what? We got to listen in ready for you. Let's jump into a listen and hear the comms of Game of Drones.
One is on top, one is on top.
I'm walking up.
Watch out, is on top left. It's about
to go in zone.
One is on me. Close to me, Torch. Flash.
Flash. Nice. I'm batting.
Nice.
I'm in zone. In zone.
Flash. Dead. Beginning behind.
Back.
New team.
Keep going. Finish for a swap. On me. Purple.
Push forward, yeah. You all with 1v2 or 1v1.
No. The nade.
Gladiators, they light it up. Here we go. We called them out. We said they need a big game number 3. So far, so good, but their biggest challenge is ahead of them. It's the rotation in. They're playing Edge again. They're playing a much different team comp than we saw that Newcastle pick in the week number 1. They're playing a lot more aggressive. They're playing Edge, and this is the place that's always worked for them.
Yeah, these zones moving quicker than they used to back in the day, certainly zone 1 anyway, so it's never been easy to play Edge just because it's all sped up a little bit, and that's why it's kind of benefited those who do rotate a little bit earlier. But when you see that success, when you see people who are still finding the victories and the kills with their Edge positioning, then you've always got to take your hats off to them, because it is not easy to do nowadays with the meta that we currently see. As Gaming Gladiators, we've spoke about them, we've said they've not been at their very best. In fact, they've been nowhere near their very best. But that could all turn around very quickly as we get to the halfway point of today's action, our last game on Stormpoint before we go into World's Edge. If they can get a big game here, if they can get some confidence, They know that World's Edge is their home where they've done so much damage elsewhere, and perhaps they can start to make amends for some disappointing performances in previous weeks.
Yeah, and they got a great drop spot in World's Edge as well, dropping in former Sorting Factory, not Lava Siphon. So a good opportunity for them going into Game 4, but it would be great to have some cushion with points. Great showing so far for Gaimin. A fan favorite, Hardeki, once considered to be one of the best players in the world, one of the best IGLs in the world, and one of the best Wraiths in the world. Obviously, Wraith no longer in meta. We'll see if Hardeki can return to that once former glory. No doubt in my mind that he can. And look, you have to understand with Gaimin, they didn't play with Artsco for nearly a year. They were playing with PKMK and a sub. It takes time to acquaint yourselves with that third to kind of get back in the swing of things. So we'll see if Gaimin can turn it around. Artico, one of the top players and performers from the Ukraine, fortunately due to the war and conflict, not able to attend a few LAN events. We'll see how they will return. Max Strafey in a similar boat.
Information trying to be gathered by the drone. As I look at the map overhead, GG, one of the few teams outside of zone at the moment. KCP also find themselves outside as well as EKO. So those squads are going to have to make their way in. But as we look, center zone, Horizon, we touched on them a little bit earlier. We saw they were in a great position, but elsewhere, Pioneers are getting an engagement here, John.
Yeah, it's Turkish Stars right in front of them. All three members of KCP still up, able to hit reset and heal back up, and the Turkish Stars will be eliminated. And I love how they played that in that moment. And here's a note for anyone, silver, gold, aspiring Apex players. There's a concept of you've done enough. If you do 100, 120 damage, but you take 60 damage, you've done enough. You don't got to finish those kills. You broke ice, you did the damage, and you set your team up for success. And that was the situation right there. I think it was Nasky who was the tip of the spear, broke ice and did the damage initially for Strafey and Dell to be able to clean it up. They come out on top in that 3v3, and they will now work and rotate their way in to some success. Kansas City Pioneers, Gaimin Gladiators, some of our biggest names in Apex still alive in this lobby.
A lot of teams moving in from the east side, but I did mention earlier, Alliance, they were moving all the way around. They were rotating and trying to sneak their way into Launchpad. Well, their journey has now arrived in the middle of Launchpad. They have been able to actually successfully get into a zone area where they could win the game, but it's about whether anyone got eyes on them, so we'll have to see a little bit later. As for now, Pioneers, as they move in, they've got GG above them, they've got EKO below them. This is not going to be easy whatsoever, John, because two squads are going to be staring at them here.
Yeah, that's right. It's going to be a tough rotation. Oh my goodness, here comes the push. Kansas City Pioneers knocked and about to be out of this lobby as Zuni and Artico both contribute. Gaimin Gladiators is having their way. Nicely placed Arcstar right there for Hardeki, and this is the Gaimin we're used to seeing, flowing so well as a team, and despite being under duress, comfortable being uncomfortable, picking up kill points along the ways and making plays every step of the way, as well as Gaimin gets some more damage with the Arcstar, but decides not to push. They're now stuck as a meat of a sandwich with two teams to the right and left.
Moving and grooving our Gaming Gladiators, just as they used to do, looking like the Gaming Gladiators of old, and now getting aggressive again and just finding a team with a tail between their legs here. It should be cleanup crew. 1-2 go down, but Artico clutches up and should have the time to be able to get these players up and restabilize before their push into the next circle. Yes, okay, there is going to be a drone in the area, but judging by where those teams currently are, they should be fine. I think Horizon is taking a little peek at this. Urban is certainly trying to get into an area, and Urban will actually get the missile swarm down, but it's whether Urban wants to push on this. I don't think Horizon will commit this heavily to this KP, considering the position they're in right now.
That's right. So actually, Horizon is the team that's rocking the drone. So they had the intel from the drone, and Horizon pushed up just to try and be a nuisance, maybe try and see if they can make a play out of this. But ultimately, they decide not to push, because guess what? Ember is going to be the team that's flying at them. Horizon, I believe that's them. Yes, it is. No, it's Alliance. Sorry, I take that back. Alliance taken out to the hands of Ember. This is where we saw Horizon earlier in the lobby. Not sure where Horizon is currently positioned, but Ember looking to go back-to-back. 7 squads remain here. We have Gaimin, we have Ember, we have Alliance recently eliminated, but Horizon, I believe Vex still alive as well.
The position that Ember were in, Horizon are in pretty much the identical position just south of them on the little bridge extension. This is where both of these teams are going to be, but now this is where the fights are going to ensue, right? GG are going to try and push this little bridge. This is where Ember are. Jay Savage and the rest of the squad are currently on the other side of this as well, so Ember just get collapsed on by everyone, and now the bridge is suddenly Gaming Gladiators, so a team who was out of nowhere finds themselves in one of the best positions in the game at the moment.
And Hardeki, this is Hardeki, remnant of the 2 year ago Hardeki we're used to seeing with a wingman, not missing shots right now. Hardeki is lighting it up, and Gaimin going to find themselves a knock on Jay Savage of Forge. Quite a few more kill points for Gaimin. 6 squads remain, and they're showing no signs of slowing down here, Dan.
Yeah, Horizon and Gaiman Gladiators, the two teams with some of the best positions at the moment, but it's about where this next circle goes, where it moves to, who's going to get the better position, or is it going to be between them? It's going to be very much central in the water area as we get into the final circle. 4 squads left as it's going to close slowly now around them. Gaiman Gladiators probably the closest team to where that circle is going to finish. They shouldn't have to move for quite some time now. So it's going to be about the other teams. When do they move? How do they move here? As there is Watson fences occupying so much of this space.
Beautiful overhead camera. Look at Phoenix. 20 HP to his name. Hardeki on Seer says, I see you. And Phoenix is going to finally show himself and get taken out from this lobby. Forge eliminated. Jay Savage as well. Gaiman picks up 2 more kills. That's 9 total for them. And 3 squads remain. We got LFO team of 3, Horizon team of 3, and Gaiman Gladiators team of 3 to close this one out.
This is really going to be the waiting game. When do you push? Do you try and be the aggressor? Do you try and maybe get an ability or a grenade off to try and encourage the other team to actually push? Or do you accept that you're not in one of the better positions, that you might have to play for second place here? But all the meanwhile, the circle is going to start to close around you, and it is really going to increase the speed of which you need to be thinking about where you go next. A tough final circle to navigate. Gaiman Gladiators, I would say, in my opinion, have the best position, but you could also say that LFO, with the ability to walk out from cover underneath, probably feel pretty good about themselves as well. It's just a case of who shoots who first here.
That's right. Waiting game indeed. And of course, right now you got to think LFO. Thank God they have Watson, but they are the team in the center, which means they will likely be the team that's going to be first to be under duress. Horizon makes the first move on high ground here, and rightfully so. Wise decision to take high ground and close your way in. That high ground's going to be all types of advantage. Mobile respawn beacon going to drop just for some extra cover. The damage has been done, and Horizon's going to be able to heal up.
So much shots going down, but it's mostly hitting the generator at the moment. Gaiman Gladiators still a full 3 as Mimu is the first to go down from Horizon. So Gaiman Gladiators still in one of the better positions. Artigo wants the swap but can't get the swap, but they are able to back off. They are trying to force LFO closer to their opposition right now as they can just hold down this ground and they can nade for free.
That's right, and those nades are going to connect. Not a lot of damage, though, courtesy of the nurse to the Arc Stars, but Gaiman does the damage. Bow check, bow in hand of Hardeki. He's going to connect. Horizon's going to be taken out first, and Gaiman Gladiators will clean up after. They're going to do it. Game number 3 with a 10-plus kill game for Gaiman. They go huge and respond to the Call of Duty, Dan.
It's about time. We saw the Gaiman Gladiators do what we know they are capable of, what they should have been doing for weeks, but finally they put it all together. They managed to get the pieces, and what an impressive display we've just seen with how they moved around the map, how they were approaching the edge of the circle and the teams they were able to fight, and how they just bullied their way into that final circle, taking one of the better positions off of Ember there. Extremely impressive, and what we would expect from GG. This is what we were hoping to see, John.
Absolutely. They had to earn it, and earn it they did. Congratulations to Gaiman. It was a tough rotation. Again, a team that's not actually in zone or close to zone, rotating and finding success, which we all know, we discussed kind of in current meta, difficult to do with a lot of Watson fences in play. And with everything that we saw, Gaiman's still able to do it with, I think, a 12 to 15 kill game. I'm excited to take a look at the standings here in a moment. We're also going to welcome back Onset into the discussion here in a moment as well to break down all the action. Onset, I know you were watching. We said take a break, yet here you were. Every step of the way, I saw you in Discord communicating. I know you were watching as well. Your thoughts in game number 3?
Hey, it's about damn time, right? That's what all I can say, because we have been waiting for GG to remind us of how good they are. That was the GG we have seen for so many years, just dominating 3v3 fights, creating openings through damage from the wingman of Hardeki, and it was just like, oh, something clicked. It was like, oh, this is how we played. Everything is working now. And the 3v3s were just beautiful to watch. And the thing that I loved about the end game as well is Hardeki was the initiator in so much of the damage. A lot of the time you'll see when you have those 3 teams remaining, a lot of teams are kind of trying to play close to each other, trying to not give any damage away. Hardeki's up on the high ground. He's like, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to make you make decisions, and I'm going to create openings for my team. So I think that all in all, I'm now excited for the last 3 games, because I think that Gaiman Gladiators have needed that game. Now they have that game. They look like a completely different squad.
Yeah, completely agreed with you. Wingman and Hardeki, name a better duo. You saw right there on display in full force in that late game. The amount of damage he was able to put into the Wingman in late game was just absolutely insane. So it's good to see Gaiman back to what we're used to seeing Gaiman doing, which is dominating specifically with a Wingman. As we take a look at the highlights here in just a moment from game 3, we'll also take a look at the overall standings. But Dan, the standings certainly going to be shaken up here with Gaiman, a team that was in the bottom 10, going huge. Ember gets taken out early, and Alliance do. Those are your top 2 teams.
Well, again, it just goes back to us talking about how tight this region is. You know, we were maybe thinking that perhaps Gaimin Gladiators were moving down into the lower seeded teams, perhaps going to be a little bit of a pushover when it comes to some of these rotations, and then suddenly they pull out a game like that. It is never over until it's over, right? These teams, they know how to play. They just sometimes have to tap into those core memories and make sure they can get playing like they used to in some of these games. And, you know, Apex is a game where it can go against you at times. The circle might pull the wrong way, or a team might suddenly be in a stupid position because they've been forced out of their position by another squad who are rotating early. There's so many factors that come into disappointing performance that is more so just than individual skill or strategical ability. There is just so much you have to try and play for, and that's why it's so much more impressive when you see a victory like that, with how GG had to play, where they came from, and the teams they had to battle, whilst also being at their very lowest point in terms of confidence. It makes it that extra bit sweeter.
And one of those teams is the team we see on screen right now, the KCP. So again, we talk about the journey that Gaimin had to get there. They had to get through KCP. They had to get through quite a few teams. Every step of the way, they did it with success. And here's the moment where they actually saw a little bit of duress. You wonder if Horizon would have just kind of aped them in this moment, they would have taken that exact positioning and ultimately had the spot that Gaimin had to close out the game. Instead, they let them survive, and Gaimin ends up being the biggest thorn in their side, Sunset.
Yeah, I mean, I actually want to talk about that play a little bit as well, because a lot of, you know, what makes a good Watson player, excuse me, was on display there. Even though one player goes down, if you're playing Watson and you get back to your feet, you have an armor dropped for you, and you get into a position where you're healthy. If you've got an ult excel, you have to pop that as quickly as possible. Get that gen down as quickly as possible, because not only is it going to allow you to heal a little bit quicker, but any grenades that get thrown in are going to be eaten up. It allows you to reset a little bit more comfortably, and then it gets you into that end game. So that's something that maybe people who are playing Watson at home always carry that ult excel, because it gives you the opportunity to reset, especially in those tight moments where teams are looking to maybe overextend for third party, but in the end game, it's invaluable.
Agreed. And as a result, despite not having the Watson generator, they still were able to get the revives and still able to come out on top with a 16 kill game, 28 points for Gaimin. Again, we keep saying it. Sorry to beat this as a dead horse, but it is a dominant showing. And this is the Gaimin we're used to seeing, showcasing they still have what it takes. 28 points for them. LFO forever also showing some life with the second place 3-kill game. Horizon, consistent top 3, top 5 finishes for them. That'll help them in the overall standings. But then you have teams all the way down like Alliance and Ember that got taken out early, only 5 or 7 points, which means when we take a look at the overall standings here in a second, Gaskin, it's going to be shaken up quite a bit. I think we're going to have a really even distribution of points as we take a look at the second page here, Dan.
And just looking at like those placement points and the teams that got around, you know, 5-6 points, they all rotated early, they were all in position, but Gaimin Gladiators ruined all of the statistics. They ruined all of their chances by being just the sheer aggressive side that we've seen so many times, and they bullied their way into that final circle. They ruined the game for so many teams. But in the overall standings, Alliance still just about in first place. Gaimin Gladiators will climb up to second place. So for all the talk of us saying, well, where are Gaimin Gladiators? What are they going to be able to do? Are they ever going to show it? Well, they have shown up, and now they find themselves in second place going into World's Edge.
Indeed, and they got to be consistent going into World's Edge as well. We got to see it again for them, as you see Alliance, Gaimin, and Ember in your top 3, but IG Ascend showing a lot of consistency. Vexed as well continues to hover in that 5 to 7 range. We'll see how they'll perform going into World's Edge. Pioneers, though, the biggest surprise in this competition, in my opinion, alongside E6. Let's take a look at the kill leader, though, of the lobby. Who's on top? Well, it's Unlucky. So again, same situation. You see Vex nowhere near the top 3 in placement or overall standings, but they're able to be on top of the kill leaderboards. Unlucky's been playing out of his mind. Hardeki right behind him, Monset.
Yeah, I think the way that Vex are approaching things is interesting for me, because it seems like they've worked out how they want to try and get to the next stage of the tournament, right? And that is they're going to look for point accumulation. They're not too worried about winning games and closing games out, because this isn't a match point format, right? This is about accumulating as many points as you can with some decent placements to help you. And that's the way the Vex are playing this, because we don't very often see them in end zone. We do see them taking a lot of fights. We don't see them afraid of being able to, you know, taking a straight 3v3 when it seems to be a little bit maybe too busy to do that in certain situations. But my question for Vex is, if they do qualify for the next stage, if they do get through to the LAN environment and we do get to match point, do they have it in the locker to then switch up this game plan that they have? Because if you're looking at games won versus placements, I'm pretty sure that Vex, they're not going to have a lot of games won, but the placements are up there to keep them in contention. So that's my one thing looking ahead for Vex. Do they have a plan B when we have a change of format if they manage to get to that situation?
Yeah, that's a good point. Obviously, right now, top 20 is the name of the game, and then top 10 in overall point standings. Well, Vex has been staying there. They've been doing so with consistent kills placement, kills versus placement. And it's working out for them. But hey, obviously, quite a few other teams that have been showing up this weekend. It's time to take a look at our kind of team profiles here halfway through the show, our halftime team focus. Gaskin, which team do you have your eyes on as your team to focus on here in this halftime?
It's hard not to talk about Alliance, really, with how they approach the start of the day and with Effect finally being on our screens competitively rather than just what we've been seeing in scrims. They usually are a team who starts slow, right? So many times we talk about Alliance, they start slow and then they perform well towards the end of the day. A complete flip of that today. We've saw them explode onto the scene in the first game. The way they've been entering fights has been incredible. This particular game that we're seeing highlights of, the way they rotated in late and they held out other teams has been incredible, because games 2 and 3 they had to move quite far to rotate through the zones, and considering how comfortable the first zone was for them in game number 1, suddenly games 2 and 3 became more difficult, but they still fought through. They still got top 6 in those games plus kills as well. I think it's the consistency from Alliance which is so impressive right now.
Yep, the fact that they're doing it all the way from Lightning Rod, the northeast part of the map, it's obviously difficult to get to. Some of your dropship paths don't actually get you there. You have to take a launch cannon to get there sometimes. Alliance is doing it to some success. However, the opposite side of that coin is, Mark, who I believe you want to focus. It's Na'Vi.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Na'Vi because it's very easy to talk about the teams that are at the top of the leaderboard, looking great, looking strong, but Na'Vi is an interesting one for me because it kind of highlights the knife edge that a lot of Apex Legends in these lobbies is played on, because Na'Vi have been in positions where they've got 2 dead in a team fight a few times early on, but they're not able to clutch the 1v1 scenario. And that might seem like, okay, they're just losing the team fight. But then we've just seen what happens for a team like Gaming Gladiators, right? If they get that first win, they get that 3v3, all of a sudden you got extra loot. All of a sudden you go into your next fight looking a lot stronger. All of a sudden your confidence is there. The communication is there. And at the moment, Na'Vi just seem to be one step off of that at the moment. But if they can start to tighten up in those team fights, win that first team fight, then who knows what can happen for them, because they're part of the chasing pack at the moment and they need to start finding those results.
Yeah, we've been obviously highlighting Gaming Gladiators, but another team that honestly could be in a similar category as Na'Vi. With that said, they were in top 15 overall standings going into this competition, so certainly not in the same situation, but you haven't seen them dominate like they used to. When they were formerly CHMK, they won multiple events or championships or pro league weeks. We saw consistency out of them week over week. We haven't seen that same consistency for the Na'Vi banner in quite some time. Can they turn it around? I like that highlight, and I like the diversity, the dichotomy between the two in Alliance and Na'Vi. But outside of those two, some squads again that you would have expected to perform maybe at a top 3 level is Kansas City Pioneers and Element 6. E6 goes off of the Lifeline off meta pick. It was Lifeline Crypto. They're now back to, I think it's a default Seer, Horizon, and Valkyrie team composition. Gaskin, from what you've seen from them so far, and KCP, pick your litter here. Which one do you want to focus on, and which one do you think, or what do you think is not going so well for them?
I think if I look at Pioneers and how they've approached the games, it's more so the teams around them haven't been able to allow them to play the game they want. They've been rotating early, they've been getting central zone, the zone moves away from them a little bit, and then they try and move across slowly, but other teams that are just there, they're waiting, and they're constantly getting into kind of third-party engagements or getting into the later zones. There's just other teams in the priority areas that they would like to get to early, and I just think that Pioneers are struggling at the moment to win those key risky fights, right? They're winning the early engagements, that's fine. They're getting into the later circles, but when it comes to crunch time, they're not winning those 3v3s. And we saw similar things happen a couple of weeks ago. They tweeted out saying, look, we've just not been playing well today. We've not been winning our fights. I think it's a little bit like that today, but that can very easily turn around on World's Edge, where perhaps things will go a little bit more their way.
Yeah, and I know Nasky's not always one to be one of excuses, but also some difficult zones for them. Obviously, Alliance has done well despite some difficult zones, and same thing with Ember and others. But they dropped Wall, and we've had 2 southern zones there in Storm Point, so we'll see how they can flip things around on World's Edge. But hey, obviously a lot to break down in terms of our pro teams. If you, any one of you watching right now, want a chance to be in the Pro League in Split 2, well, guess what? We got some action for you. Challenger Circuit, number 2, 3, and 4. If you win the Challenger Circuit tournament, you're in to the qualifier against the bottom relegated teams from Split 1 Pro League. This is across every region: North America, EMEA, APAC North, South, and South America. Make sure to register. The registration, you'll see close dates are right before the tournament. Compete to win, compete to participate in the Challenger Circuit. Most consistent teams throughout the entirety of the Challenger Circuit and overall points will find themselves in for the relegation qualifier as well. So keep that in mind. It's not just winning you're in, it's also consistency across the entire way. It's almost like a mini pro league in a lot of ways. You'll love to see the challenger circuit format and the fact that anyone can achieve that path to pro, much like we've seen some teams do so far in split number 1. But hey, we're going to take a quick break. We're getting some things sorted and getting some things ready to jump back into game number 4 on World's Edge. We'll be back right after this. WD Black, the official storage partner of the Apex Legends Global Series. Welcome back, everybody, to ALGS Day 4 of the EMEA Pro League. We are 3 games down on Storm Point. So far, well, a different team has won every single game, which means our standings pretty evenly split going into World's Edge games 4 through 6. Well, it's anyone's day, anyone's opportunity to take home the first place 25-point win. Keep in mind, obviously, consistency throughout the entirety of the Pro League is what matters the most. Top 20 teams will qualify for the regional final, and the winner of that will automatically qualify for the Split 1 Playoffs LAN tournament, which is coming up in just a few months as well. I'm John Keflukas, also known as Fallout. Let's take a look once again at our map schedule and bring our casters in for the discussion as we get ready for game number 4. You had Alliance win game number 1. Ember win game number 2. The Gaiman Gladiators win game 3. So 2 out of the 3 games are won by the former Titans of EMEA, Alliance and Gaiman. This is certainly a day that looks like one of old in the European competition with Alliance and Gaiman on top. But does it feel good to be back? It's almost like orders restored here, Gaskin.
Yeah, I think that, you know, seeing Alliance and what they've been able to achieve, I think there was worrying signs when we saw Vibes leave because, you know, this roster has just been such a forefront of EMEA for Apex Legends for quite some time. So when that change happened, there was a lot of discussion. Who was going to be there? Who was going to be that new third? And Effect, I think he fits right in.
Yep, Effect in his debut has looked great. The amount of damage that he's able to do to open things up for his 2 teammates to kind of close out has been massive for this squad. The controller player from Russia relocated to Serbia to compete. Effect in his debut. But guess what? Game number 4 is here. Onset, Gaskin, take us through the action here on World's Edge for game number 4.
It would be our absolute pleasure and privilege to do so, and we are going over to World's Edge. Like you say, it's time for a little bit of a change of scenery here, and I've got a little, we have these sayings that go around, Dan, right, that kind of become commonplace, and I think my favorite one to apply to that last game, and what we saw from GG, was form is temporary, but class is permanent.
Yeah, it is just kind of, you've got to look at what a team does and how they battle through the hard times, because it's all well and good being a squad who really struggles in early stages and then disbanding or trying different compositions or doing whatever you can. It's about sticking to your guns. It's about sticking to playing the game you think the game should be played. And I think that's exactly what we saw from Gaiman Gladiators. They just showed sheer amount of aggression in that game. They showed what they were made of. They bullied teams in every aspect of the game and they found success. So I think that it's just picking up the pace a little bit in the right times for Gaiman Gladiators, and they should still be able to find success and get some more consistency.
Yeah, not only that, the fact that they have such a priority drop spot here on World's Edge as well at Lava Cypher, this is arguably, in my personal opinion, one of the best places to drop, not just because of the how close you are to a lot of zones. It's a fairly central drop. The loot pool that you get if you're uncontested here is pretty much second to none. You also get beacon information. Sometimes you get the crafter as well. You're usually leaving fully suited and booted, and I'm talking like cravat, tie, pocket square, everything you could possibly want to go into those team fights, as well as having the option to get early priority position. But we are actually going to see a little bit of a contest going down here, Dan, which is, I'm not going to lie, I kind of enjoy seeing this a little bit.
Yeah, just a couple of arguments happening in the early stages of a game, and maybe just fighting for a drop spot or someone dropping in your vicinity. So it's about letting them know in game number 1 so they don't do it again in games number 2 or 3. But whoever does win this game, win this fight, you know, it might have a chance to win the entire game. That's sometimes how it can work and how detrimental it can be losing these early stages. we did get a brief overlook of the circle, which we'll touch upon later, because it looks like Corpa, they want this, Mark. They are continuing to be aggressive here.
I've loved watching Corpa play today, I have to be honest. Every time they get damage done, they close that gap so quickly. You can see as well here, 3 tricks. You know, he got some damage down, immediately knows that he's got a few seconds to cross and try and get damage down before that player gets his heals off. Also, when you're playing on Seer, if you can get into position to hit that Q and cancel those heals, all of a sudden the fight is heavily in your favor. But the fight might be turning now, because Heroes look like they've managed to get reset and also managed to get a little bit of a fight going their way.
Yeah, Fricks has just gone down, and that's going to be tough now for Ember to try and get back onto things. Bavis also falls, and suddenly it's a 1 versus 3. Heroes going to get aggressive, going to try and push up on this and try and secure this KP. But this is a lot of noise that's happening on World's Edge, and I think teams might be drawn to it, might be able to potentially third party. It depends who is in the closest vicinity to really show what they're made of here and try and get a little bit of extra KP. But hats off to Heroes for being able to be so successful in that push.
Yep, but here come the boys who were trying to force them off of that drop spot. It's going to be another 3v3 going down. It looks like Wraith has managed to get some heals off, but he's immediately going to have them stripped back off again. As now you're going to see Zako trying to use that black hole and also use this Havoc to do some damage, and Clutch will fall. I mean, the Havoc, I've got to say, if you get a turbocharger on that thing this season, it's still pretty nasty. Let me tell you, as you're going to see another example of it here.
Oh my god, just every player that walks in his crosshairs right now is getting absolutely obliterated. Needs a little bit of help now from the rest of the team, but you push out a bit hastily, and Corpa do go down. And unfortunately for them, they tried to just get aggressive after seeing the damage. But as I said, this attracts a lot of attention, a lot of noise happening in the area, and everyone wants a piece of it.
It's a 1v1, and actually, Fricks managed to get back to his feet. This is Ember coming back. You saw that Young Hong Kong managed to get into a position to stay alive, and now he's got to try and close out. But no, this is looking a little bit shaky, and Heroes are eliminated, and Ember, who were the first team actually involved in this fight going down. Young Hong Kong escaped with just a couple of breaths left in his lungs, and he comes back to finish things off, gets his teammate back up, and now Bavis is probably watching and going, nice job, boys. Hit that beacon, get me back in the game.
Unreal, really. That whole engagement, I think Heroes would have been confident as they made it a 3 versus 1 against Ember. The last player gets away, a third party arrives, Ember get back to 2. It's just everything that could have happened in that fight did seem to happen, and I didn't think Ember would be the team that comes out on top, but somehow they managed to achieve it, and now, as you say, they can try and reset, get that third player up, but of course, when you do deliver them to a beacon, there is going to be extra attention. But with the zone coming in, perhaps you can get away with it. Perhaps there's not going to be any teams in that vicinity now that you have to worry about. And as I look at the map overhead, it looks like Ember should be okay to get that player back in. Bavis should come back in, but now it's going to be a long old journey to the northern side of the map, because that's where we're going to be heading. We are going to be going northeast for this final circle, not as far as Climatizer. It is just going to be kind of probably north of Fragment East, around the lava areas. I would imagine we're going to finish around here, and we've got a lot of teams that are already setting up around there, but maybe 5, 6, 7 teams who are still outside of circle and have still got to make their way through.
Yeah, that high ground is going to be really important to hold down as well around Epicenter. But one team that got eliminated, if you were kind of caught up and swept away by the team fights that were going down early on, was actually Ascendant. So Ascend have been a little bit quiet today. We saw them in the early game. In that first game, we should say, have a pretty good finish, but apart from that, just seem to have fallen apart a little bit. Not when I say fallen apart, I'm comparing it to their ridiculous standards that they set, of course, the last time that we saw them on our screens with those 3 back-to-back wins. But certainly, maybe a few things to think about for them.
Yeah, I think that they've had a frustrating game in game number 3. And sometimes that can change your approach to game number 4, because I will always say that Apex is about confidence. It's about when you're going to be pushing into fights, and do you believe in your team? Do you believe in your ability to win that engagement? Do you believe in the calls that your IGL is making when it comes down to those rotations? And if you do have a really poor game prior to changing map, I think that is always going to like just knock the confidence ever so slightly of teams, and perhaps that's what we'll see from Ascend. But also Element 6, another team that has been struggling, another team that's probably not riding high on confidence right now. They have been able to get into the circle for now up by Survey Camp, but they are going to have to move a little bit further, and they've got that beacon information, so they will be moving probably sooner rather than later, especially having the Caustic available to them.
Yeah, a little bit of flexibility in the composition here. You're seeing, like you mentioned, Caustic, and it's been a weird day, to be honest, for for E6. We've seen them inside a zone more often than not when they're having to take their team fights, and they just seem to not be able to get the timing on their rotations or being held up, whatever it might be. But the game plan certainly has not been working for them so far. So K-Swinny is going to have to go back to the drawing boards between maps, and hopefully on World's Edge he'll have something a little bit different here. We do see a fight about to break out now between Game of Thrones and a team. He's trying to hold them out here with a couple of Watson fences. Let's see what the comms are like as they try and take this fight. They're getting aggressive here. Let's jump in with Game of Drones.
They play on the respawn beacon. Ulting.
One is her right.
Knock one.
Push that, push that.
One is close, one is close.
Yeah. Kill the guy close, kill the guy close.
I got destroyed. I'm healing.
I'm watching the two guys behind.
Yeah.
One cracked. I'm betting.
Yeah. One is on the tower. I'm healing.
They're all there now.
All there? Okay.
Yeah, all there. I can hit a Q.
We can angle this. One blue.
You can fly on the rock. Steer crack.
Okay, good. I'm pushing up a bit.
I'm selling.
I got destroyed. I'm healing. Watch out, you're low there.
I might be dead.
They took the house now. I have to go back.
So far back.
Wait, chill.
Like.
Under tower. Moving up. 30. Still low.
I'm
gonna hit a cancel.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, as we jump back into the comms stand, Game of Drones never looked comfortable, and who's on the other side of this fight? It's GG. After the back of a GG themselves picking up that first place finish, all of a sudden you're seeing how hard it is to fight against them.
Yeah, just a fun fact on Torhei as well from Game of Drones. Actually, he used to be a speedrunner. I remember interviewing him back when I did a speedrunning show ages ago, years ago, and it's amazing to see what he's now doing in Apex Legends. It was not a name I was expecting to see when Pro League got announced in the Challenger Circuit and all of that good stuff. But Gaming Gladiators, anyway, have been able to take down 2 of those members, and now it's just a case of whether they are able to get the 3rd and try and get that extra little bit of KP. But you heard in the communications frustration. Why are you not here? Why aren't we there? Why aren't we pushed up a little bit more? These are the things that you need to try and kind of nail down in Pro League to make sure that you are on top of your game.
Ardeki and Leogri combine to get the finish on that down and say, give me the loot, as they pick up a few more goodies to make their way towards the end game. But like you mentioned, confidence is such a big thing. Look at how Gaming Gladiators looked in that fight. Completely different from what they looked last week, the week before. Just confident. Every single time that a player from Game of Drones tried to peek, the shots came back. But I will say Game of Drones, they had a couple of opportunities there in that fight to get that first down. But even though we always talk about the technical aspects, you know, the timing, your rotations, how you plan, what teams you can expect to fight, sometimes you just have to hit shots. And that was the one thing I think that was missing at one point.
Yeah, really tough for them. And I think the last remaining rat is going to have a very miserable game trying to stay alive in World's Edge. Because this is a little bit more comfortable for a lot of these teams. I know I say it a lot, but I think World's Edge is the tried and tested home. You know, these teams have played it for extra amounts of years over Storm Point. As we move over to Vexed, we talk about their aggression. We talk about how many kills they're able to pick up. But do they have the consistency to get those victories? That's our biggest question about Vexed Gaming. When you look at the bigger tournaments, when we get to championships, when we get to playoffs, and match point becomes a thing, are Vexed Gaming still going to have that success?
Well, E6 once again find themselves without a player, and it's not looking good for them in game number 4, much like it has it in games 1 to 3 so far. So even though they got a playable spot, not having one of their main slayers on the team on Horizon is going to make this a little bit tougher. They do have difficult course, which is going to make things a little bit more difficult for teams to push. But as we jump over to Vexed Gaming, who are kind of overlooking a lot of the fights that are going down on the high ground of Epicenter, I want to see what's happening with E6. E6 still involved in this fight, and K-Swinny has just evened things up a little bit here. Slayers is going to go down, though, and it all falls on the IGL now, on the Crypto, to try and survive here, win this fight, maybe even think about getting his teammates back up.
Yeah, unfortunately for E6, there's just so many teams around them. It's Phoenix Legacy on the other side also doing the damage and taking down Slayers. So now K-Swinny's going to have to try and get away. Has a 1, but again, it's a 3 versus 1 that is not going to happen because people know ratting it out, trying to survive and getting those placement points can be so important here on World's Edge. G-Dolphin's still sticking with the Rampart, and I think that's just going to be the case for the entire tournament now, it would seem. He seems to be very much set on Rampart. And Phoenix Legacy have found minimal success so far, but certainly could have that one pop-off game. There's actually 2 ramparts in the lobby now, though, Mark. So it's not going to be the only rampart that we're going to have to deal with if you are trying to rotate on this map. There is another Sheila that could be coming into the equation.
It's contagious, man. That's what it is. It's a breakout of ramparts in the Apex Legends Global Series. Are we going to see this catching on? Is G-Dolphin going to set the trend for everyone else? Obviously, he's been running this thing in rank for quite some time, but is Sheila going to have the final say in the circle? Part of me wants to see it. The horrible, toxic part of me wants to see Sheila destroy everybody in the final circle and pick up about 7 kills in about the same amount of seconds. But for now, we're going to watch EKO Esports, see what they can do from this position. They're down on the bottom of the central tower here in Epicenter, trying to kind of spot out what the next move is. Even though this is safe for now, it's so difficult to leave this environment with 17 squads remaining. Only 2 exits, and all of a sudden, if you see a black hole come down on one of those doors, a couple of arc stars, frag grenades, whatever it might be, leaving becomes a very, very difficult situation.
And we are seeing a much more standard composition pick rate at the moment between all of these teams. I mean, EKO Esports going for the Horizon Valkyrie Seer. That's pretty common. We've got 7 legends selected in total. Rampart and Caustic are kind of the 2 off-meta picks that we're seeing, but elsewhere it's kind of what we expected. We've got Crypto, Horizon, Watson, Seer, and Valkyrie. Again, a 90% pick rate on the Valkyrie, but at the moment, Forge left with just Rowe to try and stay alive as the Watson, but it's not going to be easy.
Not going to be easy indeed. A couple of gens down. One of those going to explode as 3 Muppets now move in to 30-30. It's fully decked out in gold at the moment, but it's not going to pick up the kill that was required. And it looks like the damage is actually coming in. So retreating to the teammates is always the smartest thing to do in those situations. And it looks like 3 Muppets will survive. But look at their positioning here, Dan. This is the train car. A lot of the time, we see this zone pull towards, which is why you're seeing such fierce fighting going down for this area. If you can control both towards this endgame and show presence, you put yourself in a great spot.
I mean, if you can get a Caustic in there as well, we've seen what that can happen back in the Caustic metas when there was Caustics left, right, and center. It's so important to block the vision, impair the vision of your opponents. And I think a lot of people will be gunning for those spots on the train track. But there's still about 8 teams at the moment who are outside of the next circle. So there is going to be so much damage that is going to go down from those who are within it, looking out. And it's going to be tough to rotate in. As I say that, Alliance are on their rotation. They do find one of the members of Ember. Remember, Ember won that initial fight that we first saw at the start of this game, but it seems like they've been caught out here by Alliance.
Well, if there's anyone behind this door, and about to have a very, very awkward time. The door will disappear, the stick will come in, and Effect is showing what he brings to this Alliance lineup. Huge damage being done, but they haven't quite managed to finish the players off inside at the moment. Maybe a third party now coming in, and now you're going to see Hackett go down. So this situation, which looked like all of the cards were in the favor of Alliance, now looks a little bit less comfortable. Another team looking over from the tracks, trying to third party, but Yuki now taking responsibility to hit some shots, and he's going to do so nicely.
I think this was the risk about any of these teams taking fights outside of the circle. There are so many teams at the moment who aren't in circle that are looking for KP, are looking to try and maximize? They're trying to maximize the points they can score outside of the circle without placement right now. So Turkish Stars, they are inside, they are going to get aggressive, they are going to push out, and they are going to try and punish Alliance for that initial push. And it looks like Alliance may be falling.
Yeah, they might be falling, but Draconian goes down. There is the trade. So there's 1 player left alive still for Alliance. It's a 1v1 all of a sudden as Kralex gets wrecked by numerous players. Turkish Stars eliminated, and Yuki stays alive. And most importantly, none of the downed Alliance players were finished. So Yuki can now pop this medkit, get up to full health, and think about getting Hackett and Effect back in this game.
How are Alliance still alive here? Turkish Stars would have thought they had the jump on them, but now Yuki is going to have to do the unthinkable. But no, it's still a 1v1. It's Bavis from Ember, and he gets shut down as well. And Yuki is on a tear, but unfortunately is not going to have time to res his teammates. So now he's just going to have to go on without them and try and get some placement because they've already got good KP here.
I mean, Yuki diff. He's got the knockdown shields to work with, but still winning that situation. Unfortunately, he's going to have to wave goodbye to Effect and Hackett, and maybe Hackett is going to be able to watch him and make some late game calls for him. But somehow, look at this. Yuki has managed to walk into this position. I'm not sure if he knows there's a player just around this corner. It doesn't. It's a jump scare. The zone's going to have an influence as well. And Yuki, unfortunately for Alliance, even after the magic he managed to do, will go down. Rondon wins the 1v1 rat battle,
but then goes down. Both rats eliminated. And those players who are center circle are going to be feeling good about themselves. Look at this place from Forge, but Bitfix Gaming just outside of the circle right now are going to be having a little bit of a scrap. It's a 2 versus X. This is where our other Rampart features, by the way, but it's the Gaming Gladiators once more. Confidence oozing through their veins right now.
They look like a completely different squad all of a sudden, and there was one move that was made by Hardeki, and I'm going to call it the Hardeki shuffle right now, where in that last game, he gets damage, and immediately you see him just whip that mouse a little bit left, a little bit right, hits that crouch, and he is flying forward at you. That shows confidence. That shows that he's feeling himself once more, and he is taking the reins here for GG. But Vexed, they're on the outside. Pioneer's eliminated now by Vexed, but here comes that third party.
Yeah, at what cost was this aggression, as Vex now should get wiped by LFO Forever, who will be the last team to enter, will eliminate Vex in the end. And again, all these teams who are outside the circle, who are trying to move their way in, are just being jumped on, pounced on as soon as there's any sort of advantage, as now Na'Vi also get eliminated. IG on top of them, and IG also shredding as well. JMW, what was that?
JMW, there's too many numbers for me to even call out in that position, but now he's got to do a little bit more damage because Graceful is alongside him. JMW has managed to get a battery off, but Noises is down. 5 squads remaining. Invictus trying to force their way in, but here come the cancels. They're trying to get the finish, maybe to have an armor swap available, but here is Graceful, and 3 Muppets go down.
Wow, what a fight from IG as well, and just in time to get Noises back up and now heal up before you move into this next circle. We've got 4 squads left, so there is going to be opportunity to kind of take your time a little bit here. But look at Jay Savage and co. We saw them earlier in this kind of train cart, this broken down train cart, and now they're going to be able to use this to full advantage because they will be in the prime position that other teams are going to be looking at. But the other train cart you see on your screen is currently free.
Wicked sick. He's got a crate bar and he did huge damage. 140 to one of those members from Gaming Gladiators who's trying to move down that hill. They know they've got to move through the open. That's why they were trying to make a little bit of an earlier move. You can also see that LFO are going to have to make that play. And the train cart, I'm telling you, there's no seats available for everyone. That's now LFO try and get in there, get in that mix, do a little bit of damage. Another 140, but it's not going to get that knock like he used to.
Well, IG have got into that other train cart just north of LFO Forever here, so IG now are going to be so thankful that it wasn't taken. They can kind of watch all this battle happening in front of them as Horizon will get taken down. LFO Forever, unfortunately, look like they are going to be demising very quickly, and we're into a 3 now.
And look at the move now. GG see the damage done. They know that the heals aren't going to have time to be popped. Hardeki moves in. The shuffle is there. And all of a sudden, Gaming Gladiators starting to take over this game. 2 squads remaining, but Hardeki's down. And surely, Dan, that just opens the door now for Invictus.
Yeah, Invictus will full send it. He's going to be against a 2. Are they quick enough, though? That's the real question. Do they have the positioning? They will surround them, and they triangulate to make sure they get the shots here.
Big damage being done. This is just a matter of time. IG move in. IG will win. They will be your champions on our first game of World's Edge today in game number 4, and it was all about that previous minute or so where they won those vital fights on the edge of zone. And as the observers do an amazing, major bit of work there to show us how many deaths went down in those train carts to the final moment with those death boxes down. IG, the last players who do not end up in those death boxes.
And considering how close they came in games 1 and 2 to finishing and winning, I think they'll be so relieved to actually get that victory under their belt now, because we talk about confidence. I think that's going to do them wonders in believing that their positioning is the right thing and their fights are working for them. But you're right, it was about that engagement on edge, and when they moved in, I think they were very surprised no one was in that other train cart, because they were able to set up, wait for all those teams to collide on the southern side, and then it was just a matter of time. I think that everyone was struggling to get to that train cart throughout the game because so many people were kind of pitter-pattered around it, and no one was able to really prioritize that spot. It was only the team who got into the southern train cart who actually were able to get an early position, but you saw that didn't help in that scenario because so many teams were trying to take them down. Yeah,
and I think GG in the scenario they found themselves in as well, we're probably thinking we've got to try and play for second place here and maybe try and clean up the fight as quickly as we can and give IG as good a fight as we can in those final moments, because they were in the most open position, right? They saw their opportunity to pick up 3 KP and they thought this is the greatest situation we could ask for, because not only do we get those KP, but also we get that boost in those placement points as well. So GG, after a game where they won previously, now get that second place down. It is almost like the Undertaker has sat back up in his casket and he's saying, whoever's in front of me, it's time to go to WrestleMania.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to face against GG in any fight right now with how they're playing and how aggressive they're being. It almost seems like they are happy taking risks that, usually they wouldn't be taking in the last couple of weeks because they've just been kind of scared of their ability or maybe not trusting their ability in fights. But it certainly seems to have changed up after that victory, and again goes back to that confidence factor. But a great game on World's Edge once more. A very difficult circle for some of those to play who were having to traverse so much of the map, and we saw a lot of rats staying alive trying to get desperate placement points, but in the end it was rat on rat action that we had to kill off the final remaining solo players.
And this was such an interesting way to start the day as well on World's Edge. I mean, what was this fight all about? One player manages to get alive, manages to get a res, and then comes back in. They were on the back foot, but managed to turn that fight on its head. But the team is seeing on your screen right now, Dan, Element 6, something isn't going right for them today. They're looking a little bit kind of disjointed in a lot of their fights.
Yeah, it's just one of those fights that just didn't really go too well for them. As you say, maybe communication being a little bit off here or there, but these things can change as you go on through the day. Sometimes these fights can work themselves out a little bit better, and all it takes is just a hard sit-down, hard call from your IGL to say, this is what we're doing wrong, this is what we need to change. As Alliance, they fought tooth and nail to stay alive in this fight, by the way. Yuki was against the world and succeeding.
God.
It wasn't until he walked up and unfortunately had to face another rat, unknowns to him. That's when he unfortunately fell.
Yuki diff. I'm just going to say that, by the way. I mean, those car shots on MNK, not easy to do sometimes, and he was not missing. But as you say, just caught off guard a little bit. I would say Na'Vi, a much improved performance from them, getting into, I believe it was top 6 or 7 for placements, but these are the final moments of the game you're going to see. 4 squads remaining. The full send comes in from Forge to try and take the high ground. The only problem for them was the damage that came from Invictus with those grenades towards the end of it.
And the Gaming Gladiators, once they had been able to find themselves in the center of this truck, it was just a matter of time before IG were able to close it out. It was the way IG pushed, by the way. They just kind of spread it out, made sure everyone was watching every angle, and they were just coming so successfully. And even though the Gaming Gladiators only lost out by 2 points, it does show the importance of just trying to get those extra placements, because IG lead the way with 20. The biggest standout on that page for me as well is Vex Gaming, once more showing they are a force when it comes to fighting on set. They have 9 kill points in that game.
Yeah, they do indeed. A lot of kills going their way, as we would expect. I will say Na'Vi, good placements, but no KP to go alongside it. So that's why they only come out of that game with 3 points overall. Alliance, 6 points overall. And you can see the difference, right? You pick up a couple of KP. We saw Yuki adding those 2 points to the board for them in those 2 individual fights that he managed to win. Ends up with them on 6. But Ascend, they've started to quiet down a little bit. As same can be said for Element 6. Both teams have got to keep our eyes on going into games 5 and 6.
Yeah, 5 and 6 is where people are going to have to pick things up now. As we look at the overall series results from today, Gaming Gladiators will now take the lead, and they are going to be sitting pretty on 55 points with an 8-point lead over IG, as well as Alliance now fall from their top spot just in that one game. But still very closely contested between the top 3 teams, and then as it goes further down, teams starting to trickle off a little bit, and they're going to be the ones that are going to need that mammoth game if they're going to get back into things.
We're going to have to find out if they can have that mammoth game in game number 5 when we get back after this break, after Invictus Gaming take home the previous game with that big win. But at the top of the leaderboards, of course, is Gaming Gladiators. Will we stay there? We'll see in a bit.
WD Black is the official storage partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Everybody wants more to the ALGS. The EMEA region certainly looking extremely hot today with 4 different winners across 4 different games. And now, Dan, we only find ourselves with 2 games remaining, but we are seeing the resurrection, the Phoenix rising of Gaming Gladiators. They sit at the top of the leaderboards. They're back, Dan, and I couldn't be happier about it.
They are on cloud 9. They are absolutely demolishing anyone that walks in their warpath right now. So if you're a team that lands near them and you know their rotations, I would be kind of tempted to avoid them. You don't want to take this team on in a 3v3 at the moment. I think I've said it before and I'll say it again. They have been bullying other teams with their approach to playing this game, and it's so difficult to try and navigate your way through the map when teams are playing that way. Think back to how Furia played at the World Championships, right? This is a similar kind of feeling I'm getting from GG right now as they drop Lava Siphon, and they are going to be having all the goodies they could have possibly asked for.
I was going to say, when the sun's shining, you got to make haste, right? And that's exactly what's happening right now. They get the priority loot as well, right over their POI, which already has some wonderful goodies to play with. So keep your eyes on GG. The only thing that's really going to be able to stop them at this point, maybe, is a little bit of overconfidence. But look at where that zone's going down. Very similar to what we saw, maybe ever so slightly more to the west than what we saw a little bit earlier on. Look for that train station to maybe be one of those end zones, but Fragment is going to be busy for sure.
And as always, teams in the southeast side of the map will sigh as they are still yet to see a circle come their way in Pro League, and they'll be very upset about it. But eventually, maybe your drop spot will reward you, but it is not going to be just yet here in match number 5. As you say, there is going to be a long old walk up to kind of northern side. Maybe it is going to go drift a little bit over towards the area west of Epicenter, as those train tracks could be a finish.
This is interesting. Look at IG. They're stealing a little bit of loot away as well. So it looks like a little bit of a split of Lava Siphon might be going down here between Diamond Gladiators and, of course, Invictus, which is always interesting to see, to be honest with you. We'll have to check out exactly what is happening on map overhead, and that is exactly what is happening. So IG stealing a few bits away, hitting the beacon, and then getting out of here.
Yeah, teams do seem to have a mutual respect sometimes for drops, especially beacons. There was a big discussion point happening with TSM and Liquid and beacons in the North American region, and maybe in the EMEA region, everyone's a little bit more happy to split beacons and making sure that you can just share them, because then you rotate away and you don't have to worry about each other for quite some time, because that's exactly what's happened here. IG, they walk in, they get a little bit of loot, they get the beacon, and they say, you know what, GG, you can have that. We're rotating early anyway. You know we are not a threat to you right now. We're not going to take that initial engagement, and that's why GG are more than happy to allow it to happen.
I will say as well, I said beacon, I meant balloon. Both words start with B, Dan. It's very confusing sometimes, especially when you're casting Apex Legends. So apologies to everyone there. I meant balloon. They hit the balloon. They're out of there. Peace. But you are completely right, of course, about the beacon information, as now we see Ascend making their way towards where they want to be. They started over a Harvester, but it looks like they've got a little bit of a scuffle going down here around Landslide. So their rotation could be slowed down for a few moments. And look at this fight now going over at Big Maud. Little bit of a contest going down, and look who's involved once more. It's Game of Drones.
All these teams in the southeast side of the map probably just frustrated with how far they have to move, so instead they're just going to try and prioritize getting some KP now. It's going to be Heroes again in some action. Remember, Heroes were one of the teams we saw die early in the previous game as well, also having to try and stay alive in a third-party battle. But right now, this is just a straight 3v3. But the problem Heroes had before was this 3v3 became a third-party because of how long the fight was. Ember still in the vicinity and could join that fight if this fight doesn't conclude quickly.
Well, Heroes are going to have some good loot to play with, as you always usually do when you're leaving Big Maud. It looks like things have calmed down for just a bit. Maybe that's just because that Seer ult was expired. No extra information now. Things are going to start to warm up a little bit more. The EMP is going to come through. Jill's going to be forced to use a few shield cells. And now they're going to look to re-enter this battle. A little bit of damage being done, but is it enough for Game of Drones to feel they want to push off it? Yes, it is. Here comes the reset. The Mastiff in the hand as well, but that Horizon is being so sneaky, so difficult to take down, but there is that first knock, and it's looking like Game of Drones are coming out on top here.
Yeah, Game of Drones trying to make up for perhaps last game where there was maybe a lack of communication, a lack of direction that was happening, but now you've got to try and put this team to the sword. You've got to finish them off. You've got to make sure you get the wipe as quick as possible before a potential third party could arrive. But I tell you what, they are making it difficult, our Heroes, at the moment. Last remaining player eventually goes down. Uzako will be taken out.
Yeah, it was one of those worrying moments where it felt like everyone was saying, you got him? No, you've got him. Wait, oh no, we're all dead. It's one of those situations which we've gamed a lot together, Dan. We know that those things do happen for sure, but Game of Drones will be the team that come out on top, and they will be the most comfortable looking, and they do get those KP they're looking for.
But here comes Ember. Ember have heard all this noise, and Ember are starting to approach Game of Drones now. And are Game of Drones going to be ready for it? Are they prepared as Ember start to walk up on their direction over towards Big Maud? And now you've got to loot quickly. If you win one of those engagements, you've got to make sure you are prepared. You are certainly shield swapping as quick as possible, because I think Ember, hearing all that commotion, are in the vicinity, looking around, seeing if they can maybe do any damage. But at the moment, it looks like they're just going to be patient, seeing if there was any revivable members that were going to be coming to the beacon.
Well, it looks like for now, Ember are not going to be able to engage in that fight. Another thing you have to keep in mind as well, if you're pushing a team that's a big Mord, you know they're going to be pretty heavily looted. So I think that's why you're trying to see Ember just out-rotate, get ahead of this team. And speaking of rotations and speaking of teams getting involved in some fights, you can see that KCP and Ascend both exchanging knocks in the kill feed. Dell will actually be finished off. So KCP down to 2, but looking at where that zone is going to be pulling, we have the map overhead to our left, or should I say on the left-hand side of my screen, as Pioneers will be eliminated. It's actually pulling to the western side of where Fragment was. So we're going to go towards where that big drill tower is and maybe a little bit more landslide side than we thought.
Yeah, a lot of teams going drill tower, a lot of teams in landslide at the moment as well. When we do next get that map overhead, there you go. Look at how many teams have already made their way over to that western side. Very little on the east side of the map now, but the 4 or 5 who are on that eastern side are going to get that bad news once they do get that beacon information, or when this zone closes and they haven't got the beacon information, that they're going to have to try and fight their way through, or of course go over the top with a Valkyrie ultimate. But those teams who did get beacon information at the start of the game are going to be in a far better position, and those are the ones who usually are in the central zone positions.
You see Ascend there in a great position at the moment as we see another fight breaking out here, and this one's on Geyser, and at the moment Game of Drones, they've just been constantly fighting. They can't have a moment's rest at the moment, as it's going to be Ember now. Like you mentioned, the two teams were close, and now they are not so close because Ember will come out on top of things. Great decision, by the way, from Young Hong Kong to pop that syringe to make sure that he can get some more off and get that shield swap before he goes down. But that was the fight you were waiting to see. Finally it happens, and it is Ember who come out on top.
It was inevitable. Ember knew they were there. Ember were just biding their time, and they were hoping to be able to pick off one of them. And even though we didn't see the start of that fight, I imagine they slowly creeped up, waited for one player to step out of position, and then they took full advantage of it. And that's going to be a great wipe for Ember to continue their run today. They are in 4th position at the moment, 41 points. Of course, had that victory as well on Storm Point, as we take our attentions over to Vex Gaming, another squad who has been fighting very impressively today. They have been so thorough with their 3v3 fights to try and ensure they get the damage done early.
Yeah, here goes Unlucky as well. The opening damage is all you need if you're a Vex Gaming member. Destroys the gen as well, so now grenades become a problem for the team inside as well. They try and send a few back themselves just to hold off this push, but Vex are looking pretty healthy at the moment. Unlucky is moving in to get a couple of knocks with that Mastiff as well. Not only that, Danny escapes with his life. Huge play coming in from Unlucky.
Vex doing so well at the moment in this engagement. A perfect time to jump into a listening. Let's see how the comms are going.
Go together, go together.
Coming on.
I'm destroying the Novan shield. I'm not behind them.
I'm with you.
Nice.
He's gone, I think.
He's running that way.
There's a team as well, don't forget. I don't know if you scanned them, maybe.
Yeah, I saw them on... Is this him, maybe?
I don't know. Told you.
I saw him in zone.
No,
Wait,
we don't guess. We don't just take a guess.
Go, watch that.
Skyhook is on. Wait, EMP is Skyhook.
I don't care. We have the...
Hey, where is
he?
Where is he? Just chill.
I don't know. No. He ran zone.
Is he underneath you, like directly here?
No. Okay.
Bro, how many EMPs today?
Nobody close. Yeah, we just take it. Wait, I don't know. Might shift back to the other side, but we're...
I have an ALGS if you want it, by the way. Coming in.
Was this some close or what?
Ultimate accelerant here.
Well, Vex win that fight, Dan. They look pretty comfortable in doing so as well. It was the initial damage done by that Mastiff. And speaking of fights, Horizon are not looking good right now because Alliance have moved in. They're on this low ground now inside a countdown, and you can see they're all healthy. They're all able to reset. As Effect's job is to just watch and make sure that nobody creeps up behind them.
I do love every time we get listening as well, just hearing how frantic the communications can be with some of these squads and how aware they are that third parties are very much in the vicinity, and you've got to keep on your toes. You've got to be calling out everything and making sure you are watching all of these angles. But Alliance should be able to safely take control of this area in countdown. Looks like they're very much looking for final members of that squad, perhaps. But you've just got to be careful you don't overextend too much here. You're in a good spot with round 2 closing. You are going to get extra information when that zone has closed. So you can just kind of stay here for the moment and reside healthily. And as you've been able to bully that one team away, you should be okay on your own.
Yeah, remember the Vex were across from them though, so even though they've managed to loot up here and managed to get a few armors, they've also used the gem, which was generously donated by the team previously, to get those Purple Shield's back fully charged, so they don't have to waste any resources in doing it themselves. But this is what Effect is looking at right now for Alliance. He knows there's a team across them. That's going to be Vex, who we just saw win. Changes as well with that Anvil to single fire to do a little bit more chip damage, which is always a good thing to do with that 301. As now we move to the other side of the map, and you can see EKO, they're having to take to the skies at the moment. They are a long way off zone, and I think this is just them having their hand forced more than anything else.
Yeah, last-ditch attempt to try and get within the next circle. There are going to be teams kind of around them. Ember are going to be approaching from their south. BSE, Strongest, and the rest are going to be approaching from the north as well. So EKO have to move quickly into the circle before they get collapsed on by both of these two teams in the nearby sections. And of course, as a two, that is never going to be a fun situation whatsoever. Elsewhere, as we see the circle go even closer towards that kind of tunnel area close to the drill site you were talking about, it is going to be 4 teams within that next circle. And there are going to be teams like Corpa, for example, who are going to have to fight their way north. They're going to have to try and push through a lot of these squads that are already holding them out. But they're having success here as 2 members of Ascend have gone down.
Ascend now, once again, great position, but just not able to hold it at the moment. Center zone inside of this truck, but I always say, if that gen gets destroyed and you're holding down one of these trucks, you just become such a nade kind of magnet, to be honest with you. And it's not going to be lasting long, this hold, to be honest with you. They finally get the final kill, and Ascend, they will be out once again. So what was a glorious previous match day for Ascend is starting to look a little bit shabby here. Corpa, once again, showing how strong they can be in those team fights.
It means they can hold the southern side of this zone. Horizon are going to be just behind them as well. And they know it. Horizon have got eyes on Corpa. They saw that fight unfold. But because there are 2 very reluctant to push up, it makes a lot of sense. Gaming Gladiators, the team who won the previous game, the team who have been oozing confidence at the moment, they'll be on the northeast side of this circle, but they are currently having a little scrap with Phoenix Legacy with a team in the building.
G-Dolphin's going to have Sheila ready, I'm sure, for this push. It looks like now it's ready. Are we going to see Sheila, maybe the only thing that can disrupt the confidence and the aggression that we've seen from GG in the last few minutes? At the moment, the walls going down are going to make this push a lot harder. Gaming Gladiators also spotting a couple of players on the outside. There's Watson Fences going to give away that position. So now they find themselves in a little bit of a stickier spot than they were a few moments ago.
The only thing that can shoot more bullets than Hardeki is Sheila.
Yes.
On the other side, Hardeki can certainly compete with a turret. That's how worrying this man is when he gets going. But you do have to rev him up, it would seem, because they had a slow start, did GG, but now they're starting to show what they are truly made of. 30 seconds until Zone 3 will be closing, and Phoenix Legacy just trying to wait this one out at the moment because they know they are safe for now. And of course, they are going to be very reluctant to push out and expose themselves to the team above them.
GG want to take this fight. You can see they're constantly trying to apply pressure. They're constantly trying to get angles, and the Ogre down. The Valkyrie might be able to just about sneak on that ledge to get some shots in, but not going to be able to for now. Hardeki's got the Peacekeeper Wingman. Shout out to you. There was Season 1 throwback. And also, we know how good these weapons can be in the right hands. So anyone's going to poke around that corner. Hardeki with the purple bolt on the Mastiff. On the Peacekeeper. He's going to be able to chunk for almost 3 figures if he hits the right shots. But for now, it's just holding down the top of this building once more. They do have the Valkyrie as well if they want to take the risk to redeploy over the mountain range as that zone gets towards its end in 30 seconds time. But for now, it looks like everybody's just happy to coexist.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of coexisting at the moment. There's still a little bit of Skyhook left in this next circle. It looks like Gaming Gladiators are going to be making the move. Leogri does get that initial knock, but look at they're still reluctant to push in because they know what is waiting for them when they get inside.
Say hello to my little friend. That's exactly what is waiting inside at the moment, with Sheila just waiting to cut down anyone that is going to be coming in. Now you're going to see a little bit of pressure coming in from elsewhere. 2 C ultimates are going to go down, which is going to give information to numerous teams. A couple of shots from distance as well is going to make this a little bit more difficult. And you can see the Gaming Gladiators are desperate now to make this push in. They're trying to destroy these walls that are going down, but they just can't finish off these final 2 players.
Nice shots though with the Wingman, and it is going to be aggressive. It is going to be pushing happening. It is going to be the wipe as well as Phoenix Legacy go down, as well as Forge and EKO elsewhere. They are 2 teams that were on the edge. And it looks like Ember are also in a little bit of a scrap on the eastern side of this circle, not so far away from Gaming Gladiators.
Well, Gaming Gladiators once again seem to finish that fight quickly and cleanly enough that nobody even dares to move in for that third party. But you mentioned this fight that is happening on the edge at the moment of Fragment West, and that is going to be 3 Muppets. Get the black hole down, but don't get any damage off the back of it. You wonder if Gaming Gladiators are going to look at this at some point, Dan, and really try to capitalize. Horizon eliminated with down to 12 squads.
Oh, for sure, Gaming Gladiators are going to look at it, but they need to be careful because Invictus are also in proximity of them. So 3 Muppets will also see what's going to be happening elsewhere. That's going to be GG that they've got eyes on now. So they were pushing Ember, but it looks like GG is going to take their attention. That gives Ember a chance, but it's Leogri from distance managing to get shots there.
The flank comes in from Leogri, who manages to get that first knock. And are they going to try and capitalize on this GG, or are they going to play this one a little bit different? You can see in the top left-hand side of your screen as well at home where this zone is going to be ending, by those silos. And that is great news for the winner, of Alliance or Vexed, because those two teams are going to fight. Whoever comes out on top of that might just win this game.
But elsewhere still, 3 Muppets trying to stay alive. It just seems like GG are pushing everyone out of these positions at the moment, and GG should be able to at least take this hillside, but it's where Ember go, because Ember have now got an opening from the aggression we've just seen from GG.
You are wondering what the most terrifying sound in all of Apex Legends is. It's the wingman into your back when you know it's Hardeki who's shooting that thing, because he is not missing right now. 3 Muppets in problems, and Vex Gaming eliminated as well in these final moments. Na'Vi eliminated as well, and Alliance seem to be the team who have taken that priority position, as now we see what Ember can do with this choke.
Alliance are fighting elsewhere. Meanwhile, Ember, as I said, I was wondering where do they go? Who do they have to come across? Who do they have to fight here? As now they're down to just 2. The kill feed going absolutely insane right now on the top right-hand side of your screen as Ember will push through, and Young Hong Kong tries to stay alive, and it's a great map positioning to be able to get behind these walls, but unfortunately the circle is not going to allow you to stay there, so you need some sort of protection in this next circle.
Alliance eliminated. Element 6 eliminated, as LFO Forever now make their move in as well from that vault tunnel. Trying to hold out all these teams who are just maybe banking on that drill site ending, but the slight push away from them, it's going to make it more difficult for them to play as we move into these final moments. But GG still alive, Dan. And GG, it's just crazy how things can click for a team.
Yeah, we've got 2 teams that are in the next circle, and then the rest are all outside of it. GG actually one of the furthest teams away, so they're going to have to battle through not just other teams, but also all the weather they'll have to march through on this very long journey. I'm sure they'll be able to see several seasons with how long it could take. But there's going to be a couple of solos nearby to GG, so if they're able to take advantage of it, they might be able to get some KP, plus also get into a good position for the end game. You can see Hardeki just took down Kumbra. That's going to be 3 Muppets eliminated. That's going to be 6 squads remaining, as now it gets a little bit tougher for those teams who still have to move across.
This is interesting now. Is Wicked going to choose to use this EMP early? Is he going to try and disrupt this fight and clear that left side so they only have to face the teams that are inside of that zone? That might be the decision. That might be the decision they're trying to make right now. But for Gaming Gladiators, Leogri has fallen. So now it's up to Artico and Hardeki to force their way in towards this endgame. Difficult to do with the team above them still. Plus, like we saw, the team overlooking them from that vault tunnel.
Yeah, they're very worried about the team that's above them on the drill at the moment. Even though you can, hit them for 14 or 40, doesn't really matter. They're going to be able to shield up quite safely, because I don't think anyone else has really got an angle on them from the height where they find themselves. Everyone's trying to shoot from low to high right now, so if you're crouching down, you should be fine in the right area. As for Gaming Gladiators, as for Ember, as for everyone else, now it's time to go. You have to move into the circles. It starts to force you in. Round 5 is closing.
Bitfix Gaming and the team up on height as well that have been holding out GG, but they're going to have to move because the zone is going to force them to do so. Creeping will be able to get that battery out. Ember, eliminated. Creeping now, looking to use the Sheila, and Hardeki, there's one way to stop him. It's with Sheila.
4 squads remaining. Make it 3. LFO Forever, the next to fall. So Bitfix Gaming are going to push up in. But again, there is 2 squads already set up. Watson fences down. They are inside the area, so they can just watch and they can nade. They can use all of the facilities they need to, as Bitfix are desperately trying to get any sort of setup, this janky setup with Sheila on the horizon potentially.
Well, this is the difference, right? That EMP isn't going to destroy those walls. You're going to have a little bit of cover still to play with. It's Turkish Stars are inside. The RE45 is red, it's golden, it's looking beautiful, but the shots coming in means they won't even be able to fire a bullet in this endgame. Now you're seeing the teams collapse. We're down to just 3 squads here, Dan.
And it's Corpa, the last remaining team who have been central circle for quite some time. They pick their moment and decide to get aggressive, and all of a sudden it's down to 2 squads.
Turkish Stars eliminated Corpa. trying to do the damage, and they will do damage as well. They get the first knock. Now they're looking to just clean up what is left, and Corpa will take home our penultimate game of the day here on World's Edge. They win game number 5, and that final push that came in, the aggression which has been almost the word to describe their gameplay today, is used perfectly in those final moments to close things out.
And it was all on the back of a push that we saw off screen. You were talking about Alliance and Vex having a fight on the kind of northwestern side of that mini circle. Well, it was actually them who came along and beat both those teams. They were able to third party on top of it at the very end, and they were in prime position, Corpa. They've been playing with amazing aggression all day, and now they're finally rewarded with a victory.
Yeah, I really consider Corpa to be a team, as you jump right into the analysis here, that's similar to Vex in a lot of ways. Really high skill, some ranked grinders with a ton of talent that like to take fights on edge, but haven't been able to break into the top 3. Well, they do what Vex has yet to be able to do so far in really all of Pro League. They take first place. A big game for the Corpa boys as they're going to secure a top 5 overall, I believe, in the standings in that one. They've been playing consistently well at getting a few kills a game on set, and Corpa looking solid, and they needed it as they're currently, I think, in 30th or 29th or 28th in the overall standings.
Yeah, I mean, those kind of games, I keep saying, like, confidence is such a big thing in Apex Legends, right? And it sounds like a really stupid thing to say, because, like, surely all these teams are confident, surely they all know their ability, but when you're in a lobby which has got so much talent, a team fight win feels like a win, like a huge moment for you, because you know you've just had to, you know, really fight tooth and nail to beat some of the best in the world, and that confidence flows through you in the next fight. The decision making becomes a little bit more, okay, that decision was correct, therefore I back myself and I trust myself to make the right one the next time. The IGL starts to believe he's making the right calls, and you have this snowball effect that you're just seeing on display there. You win a couple of fights in the end game, and I think the big one was that third party that they created onto Vex and Alliance, because it looked like those were the two teams who were in the greatest position to maybe close that game out, but sensing that opportunity to take that position away is what Apex Legends is all about.
Yeah, completely agreed. You've seen the game of drones who haven't necessarily had the same amount of late game success, and a couple other teams that felt a little bit early. Gas can walk us through the highlights here in game number 5.
Yeah, it was very rough for those teams who were in the southeast side of the map, as it has been all season, as the zones very often moved more west, and they are constantly having to traverse a lot of land to get there. But it does mean that teams are starting to be a little bit more aggressive in those areas to try and pick up KP, knowing that it's going to be a difficult placement game. But Corpa, they moved quite some way as well to be able to slowly but surely make their way through a lot of teams as well. To be completely honest, they were able to find a lot of success in their engagements, but they were picking their fights at the right times. Gaming Gladiators had another impressive game. They carried on with their aggression. They carried on being relentless with their pushes, but unfortunately in the end, the zone got too quick for them. They weren't able to stabilize. They weren't able to get into that next zone, and because of it, they did eventually fall.
Yeah, I believe they wrapped up in around 5th place. They were, of course, in first place going into that game ahead of IG. They had 55 points. IG had 47, Alliance 46. So it is neck and neck between our 3 kind of top titans, top tier teams you would have thought would perform. Well, guess what? They are performing here. Here's the 5th place exit for Guyman. And in the end, it was Trix, Clutch from the UK, and Zerifer from Slovakia who were able to do it. Zerifer's been here before. He's been competing in the Pro League in ALGS for quite some time. But Trix and Clutch, well, guess what? They're new to the Pro League, new to the ALGS, and guess what? They're on top with a 14-kill game. Are you kidding me? Corpa goes huge. Trix, the lone Hungarian, playing and representing all of Hungary in this competition, and they're looking great. Bitfix and Turkish Stars right behind them, so it's a lot of our Challenger Circuit or Qualifier teams on set that perform here in game number 5.
Yeah, and it's the teams that needed to do so as well, and it makes it very interesting as we head into our final game when you have those teams who have kind of been lurking around the bottom half of these leaderboards coming into this game that all of a sudden pick up points. It means the teams at the top aren't picking up points, and it means everything is going to look a lot closer. And when you only have one game remaining, it makes things very exciting for sure. At the other end of it, though, you're looking at Pioneers. No points. Ascend, just the 2 points from KP. No placement points. And all of a sudden, you got to start thinking, like we mentioned, we're getting over the halfway point today in game days, and there's not a lot of Apex Legends all of a sudden ahead of us, and not as much as we certainly thought we were. We got to start picking up. One game could be huge.
That's right. Do or die. Let's take a look at the overall standings, and it's Guyman on top by 15 points. Ladies and gentlemen, I just tweeted it out, but I'll say it again. Guyman Gladiators are back, restored into their old form, what we're used to seeing from these 3. Can they do it consistently, though, in future Pro League weeks, and can they finish? They need a first place win is needed for them. 25 points. They're currently not going to qualify for the Split 1 finals, regional finals, that is, at their current rate, they're in, I think, 28th or 27th place overall. So huge game from them. Alliance right behind them. IG 48 points in 4th place there. You see is neck and neck as well for our top teams in the standings. And this is setting us up, Gaskin, for one heck of a game number 6.
It is, especially today. We've seen a lot of teams having success, having to move quite a long way across the map. It has not been as simple as those teams wrapping it up that are close to the final circle. We've seen a little bit more sporadic results when it comes to those statistics, especially you look at how far Corpa had to travel in that game. They came right from the southern side of the map, and they were just pummeling their way through anything that was in their path, similar to what Gaming Gladiators have done. So it shows that if you can have success, if you can constantly win those 3v3 engagements, if you're picking your fights at the right times, you can still find victories, even if the zone is not necessarily one of the best zones for you.
Edge fighting is alive and well. It's not just early rotate and bunker out with Caustic and Watson. A variety of team comps and playstyles are working today, but guess what? Only one team will end up on top. Will it be the Gaiman Gladiators holding on to their first place position? Will we see the likes of Alliance, Corpa, IG, or others bounce back and fight their way to first place in game number 6? We'll find out after this quick break. Don't go anywhere.
Apex Legends Global Series Monster Energy, your official energy drink for the ALGS.
Welcome back, everybody, to the ALGS day number 4, as we have 5 games done and dusted, completed, setting ourselves up for an amazing game 6 around the corner to close things out on World's Edge. I'm Fallout alongside Onset and Gaskin. And the big storyline going to game 6, gentlemen, I'm sure you both agree, can Gaiman bounce back from a really, really abysmal days 1 through 3 with a first place finish, or will Alliance in their debut with Effects take the first place spot? Either way, Dan, it's great to see the top 2 teams historically in EMEA back on top.
Excuse me. It is. Yeah, it's good to see everyone getting back to the form that we once knew, the form that, you know, we know that these players are capable of. And when you see changes, as for Alliance, you always wonder, is there ever going to be that replication of success? The answer is yes. The answer is they found someone who fits in perfectly. For Gaming Gladiators, a slightly different story of we know that they've done this before, but unfortunately they just seem to have got into a real rut when it comes to their form. But now it seems like they are at their very best, and I'm sure they'll be looking to try and take this one home.
That's right. Can they do it is the question. It all comes down to this. Game number 6 as the dropship flies across World's Edge. Will Gaiman stay on top? Will Alliance win in their debut? Let's find out. Let's jump right into the action. Game number 6 on set. Gaskin, bring the energy, boys.
Oh, I can feel the one more game chance from Champstan all of a sudden kind of going through my head. I remember those moments, and that's where we find ourselves today. Unfortunately, not in the arenas that we were, but we're back online, and we have one more game left in front of us. Now, this is a massive game for a number of reasons. Like John outlined, we've got Ascend, who are struggling a little bit. They were kind of the team to look at last week. Can they have a big last game to catapult themselves up? You've got Alliance with a new pickup who are looking to maybe steal away that first place from the team who is on top and has returned to form. That is Gaming Gladiators. And look at that zone, Dan. You've been desperate for it. And all of a sudden, there you go. You get your wish.
Finally, we have a southeast zone. At one point, it was a 0% southeast zones across every single region in Apex Legends, but no, we've got one. It is going to be existing. Ember are going to be thanking their lucky stars, as well as Heroes, and of course we're going to see several other squads that are kind of in the vicinity, and those who also have beacons to work with as well. Our previous winners are going to have the opportunity to have a short rotation here. Are they going to have as much success when they don't have to move as far? Do Corpa? They're kind of dropping down at launch site and tree at the moment, but have a beacon to get that info. They've already got it, as you can see on your screen. So it's going to be a completely different game for them, but maybe a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, a little bit, like you say, a little bit of a blessing in disguise. It looks like that fight that was going down over at launch site has been put to bed, so to speak. I don't think it really worked out for anyone, to be honest with you, with the third party in and everything that did go down. You can see the corporate at the moment seem to have complete control of it for now, and they look a lot more comfortable on their loop path. So they're going to be having a quick rotate towards that zone if they wish to as well. But one team who I know like these kind of zones is Alliance, because they can kind of work their way right across the southern side of World's Edge. They've got that natural geometry of the edge of the map to kind of cover their backs. They can just look in front of them, isolate those fights, and that's going to look good for them. But at the same time, you could say that for GG, right? Another team that we're looking at. They're at Lava Siphon. They've barely got any room to go. My question is, are they going to play on top of Lava Siphon, try and catch a lot of teams rotating in for some KP and make a late move, or will they look for an early rotation? All these questions, of course, we'll find the answer to very soon.
Well, I mean, you can look at the difference between IG and GG. They both land very close to each other. They've been kind of sharing a little bit of Lava Siphon. IG have already made their way to almost launch site. They moved so quickly. GG are moving a little bit later, but also are rotating into this zone. And we're going to be seeing a lot of squads who are going to make their way in and try and place themselves up. The biggest difference between GG and IG is IG did not get beacon information, so they don't necessarily know it's going to pull as heavily down towards Dome as GG might, and that could really mess up IG's rotation.
It's going to be interesting to see how that does play, of course. The beacon is so vital for teams to get that info, like you say, on where they want to try and play the game from for the majority of it. EKO Esports making their way a long way, should we say, starting a long journey for them through Epicenter towards where that zone may be. They're going to have a lot of time to play with. A nice little purple bag falling out of the drone, which is always a nice thing to see.
Oh, they did get beacon information. Okay, that's good.
There you go.
That's great for IG, because that means they can move to the southern side of this map and they can take the high ground, and they are going to try and dip all the way around Dome here and take one of the better spots, because not only are you going to have so much vision in the late game, but you avoid a lot of fights because most people will be coming from the northern side of the circle rather than this south side.
And again, much like I was talking about of Alliance, getting in that position early is great for them. They don't have to worry about teams rotating behind them because they have the natural cover of the map itself, the map edge, to take care of that for them. So they only have to look in front of themselves. They only have to worry about the teams who rotate in. And when it starts to get a bit busy, there's going to be some free shots to be taken. But look how quickly teams are rotating down. We've got the benefit of the map overhead. And pretty much everyone is trying to squeeze their way in towards Dome and Lava City at the moment. It looks like GG's position is actually inside of that vault tunnel. So they're kind of between the two, which is a great position maybe to pick off some teams who rotate out late when everyone has to leave and that zone does some damage. But it also means they're going to have a tough transition. Na'Vi also in a little bit of a scuffle here.
Yeah, we're going to get a lot of the outside teams now. A lot of these teams who are on the edge having to just fight one another. Na'Vi may be recognizing that this fight is not a sensible one to be taking, so they are going to back off ever so slightly. Elsewhere, Corpa, our previous winners, eliminated in 20th position. That is really the highs and lows of Apex Legends.
It certainly is. It is Alliance who do the eliminating, and now Na'Vi have decided they don't want to take this fight. They want to take to the skies as well and touch the clouds for just a few seconds. They have to wonder if it's going to start raining bullets, on their way down from the team that they were trying to rotate alongside. For now, it looks like a safe landing, although it does look like it's going to mess things up on their rotation. I wonder if they're just going to land here, maybe look for a little bit of information on the Overlook beacon so they can find out where that next zone is going to be. And at the same time, Eco Esports are going to overtake them on the rotation, but they do not have that beacon information by the looks of things.
And you can tell this is a game 6 because this is the most diverse legend selection we have had since game 1 of today. We've got a Wraith, we've got a Lifeline, we have a Bloodhound, and we've got 2 Ramparts. So this is the most diverse we've seen on World's Edge so far. We're starting to see people shake it up, try something maybe a little bit different, maybe more aggressive, adding that Bloodhound to the composition to try and pick up some more kills. We'll have to see whether one of those teams can find success. But of course, this is one of our Rampart teams, Bitfix Gaming, who were able to hold out teams for so long in the previous circle, and they find themselves already in zone. They're going to occupy Lava City right now.
Things are heating up for the team on top of the triple stack building for sure as the charge rifle starts to melt away and microwave people from the inside out. Creeping has to back out though. A little bit of damage coming in as well, but look at this player on the outside. He's getting caught off guard. Can he get back inside? He does. He keeps his life and he keeps the blood pumping through the veins, but he's going to have to use a few resources in order to get those shields back.
Should be able to stabilize, should be able to just kind of sit here for quite some time now, Bitfix Gaming, even though they're going to be popping shots off at teams that are nearby. It's just warning shots, really. Trying to say that they own this airspace, they own this area of the map. As ASCII. Perhaps a rat? Usually when we get a camera like this, it's most likely a rat. Yeah. Going to be on his own, and it is going to be the Bloodhound, the solo Bloodhound that we saw picked. And there's a lot to do here, because you are in the circle, and you are currently in 19th position, this squad, so 8 points is all they've been able to achieve so far. ASCII, if you're going to get them into the top 10, you would have to work miracles.
It was almost as if you were just reading off things that were not good for them. It's like, you are a solo player alive, you are a Bloodhound, and you are not doing well today. But anyway, let's see if we can put something together to see if it can end up a little bit of a happier story for them towards the end of this final game of the day. But look at Creeping, man. He's got 100 million trillion ammo in the, I think that was the right number, if I'm not mistaken, in that charge rifle. And then you've got Bitfix as well with the G7 Scout with a lot of ammo to play with as well. So you can see the game plan for them. Long range weapons, do damage to teams who are trying to rotate in, do damage to teams that are up on height, and just dominate this high ground for as long as possible.
And now, if I count correctly, aside from 4 teams...
It was 100 million, billion, trillion, Dan. I counted
That is also,
though.
yeah, that's definitely... I'm glad you've double-checked that one, because it's a difficult number. But the 4 teams are currently outside of the circle. Everyone else has been able to just about get in. And there's a few teams who are borderline on the edge and are just going to be waiting. Phoenix Legacy is one of them. But where do they go from here? They're a little bit concerned. I think they're holding out a team. I think it's Na'Vi who are just outside of them at the moment, and perhaps they're aware of that, and they're looking to just try and pick up some extra KP here and hoping that Na'Vi will rotate through the vault.
Yeah, I think Na'Vi, it's a great example here of Phoenix Legacy. They're making their rotation through the vault, of course, themselves, and maybe looking to make a little bit of a different move, because Na'Vi, we saw how they were slowed down the rotation by just a few moments, right? That means they had to change their plan. They went to Overlook to hit the beacon, but now teams have overtaken them. Now teams are holding them out, and that's what we talk about when we're talking about, you know, what the analysts do, the microseconds that can change how your game plan has to kind of move and kind of be very fluid just because of a couple of bullets that get struck into you. So Na'Vi having to be very quick to adapt in the way they want to approach this game number 6 for now, and it's looking like a much more difficult game because of that.
Also very funny, you guys at home wouldn't have seen it, but I have the map overhead. As soon as Phoenix Legacy left Vault, Na'Vi arrived, and they just passed each other's like ships in the night. No idea that one another was there. Maybe they'll meet a little bit later on, but Phoenix Legacy avoiding that fight. Remember, they're 20th position at the moment, so they need a huge game if they're going to try and put themselves into any contention of trying to get into the top half of that leaderboards. As for the other teams who are rotating in late, there is plenty of space to play on the edge of the current circle, Mark, but because everyone's gone so deep into the likes of Dome, into the likes of Lava City, as soon as that next circle comes through, as soon as round 4 starts to close down, there is going to be no room for these teams who are going to be on the edge of these circles.
Well, look at just who got eliminated, though. That's going to be Pioneers out. Their day is over here. So after these two groups met the first time, it was Pioneers, of course, who took home that first place finish. I saw a little tweet coming in from Nasky as well saying we're playing some amazing Apex Legends today. Just a few things not going our way. But, I mean, you look at the final placements after all, it's been a solid day for Pioneers, but not that game-winning performance we saw when those two groups met up before.
Vext are going to be one of these teams who are going to have to move in and just take what they can get in terms of positioning, but they do, of course, have Valkyrie. I think that we're going to see a lot of Valkyrie ultimates just trying to full send it into Dome at the end of this circle, trying to battle it out and seeing if you can take a spot on the Dome eggshells. Maybe we often see some teams land there late and actually find success with it, so we'll have to see whether that can happen again, as Forge are going to be on the other side of Vext here and may be clashing very shortly.
Vex may be thinking about taking a different move, and that's exactly what they're going to do. They realize this is maybe not the best place, so they're going to rotate right to the southern side, excuse me, of World's Edge now. They've got some med kits to play with as well. Something you always check when teams make this decision, but they're also going to be chipped away at. And that can be a little bit frustrating sometimes, but Vext decide that isn't the path they wanted to take. Now they're going to go all the way through zone, but I will say to Vext, if they do get through here and they manage to force their way in towards where Dome is, the team that's waiting on the other side for them is Alliance.
Both Alliance and IG are the two teams that have kind of taken the southern circle. Remember, we saw it very early on, so it is not going to be easy for Vex whatsoever. They're going to be really struggling when they do get there, but who knows? Maybe they can win that engagement against Alliance. They had already beaten Alliance in the 3v3 scrap in the previous game, only for it to be cost short by Corpa, who arrived as the third party. But no Corpa in sight, as they were eliminated in 20th, despite the victory they had previously. As Phoenix Legacy still taking their time moving through, as a lot of teams who are on the edge now just chunking red damage because there's such little room to play.
I think the difficulty there for Phoenix Legacy as well is they don't have an information character, right? No Seer, they don't have Bloodhound, and it makes it so much more difficult to get out and scout and get information of where teams are. So when they're thinking, hey, we can't see anyone in front of us, maybe there's a player with a Seer who's just holding down and using that heartbeat sensor to know that they're coming, and instead they have to take to the skies and make a much riskier play. So you're seeing the up and downs of different legends, different compositions on display for everyone at the moment, but EKO Esports kind of creeping their way in As we see on the edge of Lava City now, Phoenix Legacy will be able to stabilize.
And Phoenix Legacy do get ahead of a couple of teams, so they'll still be in a better spot than they were, but they still have to go that one step further. You know, they still have to get more south and get towards Dome, and unfortunately, there isn't much room to play with. So we're going to see a big scuffle happening kind of around these eggshells right now with about 3 or 4 teams who are all going to try and walk down towards Dome from Lava City. And it is going to be extremely messy, that's for sure.
Yeah, everyone's going to have to leave Lava City, and it's almost as if Phoenix Legacy, if they play this right, and they're the last team to get up on height, they could actually turn what looks like a bit of a rough situation into a pretty good one, but timing's going to have to be on their side, as are the decisions that are made in front of them by some of those teams who have to leave. Of course, the later the teams leave, the more unlikely is Phoenix Legacy to have success in this game. But Turkish Stars, good performance from them in game number 5. They're inside of that vault tunnel, which is previously, of course, where GG were. But GG have now moved to take that rock formation, which is up on the high ground. And I kind of like that decision from GG. They know they've got the natural cover from the eggshell to shield them from the teams inside a Dome. But also it means that they can cut off the likes of Vex, who are trying to make their way in with the high ground on their side.
Great views of the amount of coverage that GG have been able to create here, utilizing those Watson fences. But finally, we're going to see Vex get into this fight. We knew it was potentially going to happen, but Unlucky has already taken far too much damage and needs to try and get some sort of cover from teammates so that he can heal up.
Tyler gets one, though. Makes it a little bit more interesting here, but GG are up on that high ground, and even if Vex win this, you imagine that GG will look to move in as quickly as they can. EKO will be eliminated in this fight, and now Element 6 actually on the outside of this. They will be the third party looking to force their way in.
So difficult when the zone is moving, and the pressure it adds to you in the speed of which you have to play, and that is just going to be easy shots. 0-0 taken down, and looks like 0-0 in that moment. Willifin is able to demolish with the car as Element 6 continue to walk in, continue to shred, but this zone is not going to let you off lightly. You need to get ahead of it. It will tingle that backside. It's still hurting. You got to keep going, and just about the E6 get 2 of their members alive, but K-Swinny is going to have to be res.
Vex are the team that fall. You'll see that res come in, but like I mentioned, GG are up on that high ground, and they will be looking at this. They will know that E6 is in this position, but having 2 gold armors means they're going to be able to heal a little bit quicker here. Manage to pop those cells, pop a couple of syringes, and all of a sudden you're almost back to full health. So Element 6, they needed this kind of performance, Dan. They needed some KP, they needed points, because it has been a devastatingly poor day by their own standards. If they can put something together here in Game 6, all of a sudden it can change everything for them.
Also, you remember that story of Na'Vi and Phoenix Legacy? Would they meet again, the ships in the night? They are going to meet again. They have very much crossed each other's paths, and I'm sure they'll be having an engagement sooner rather than later, as E6, though, are going to make their way down to the southern side, try and utilize the information from K-Swinny. He needs help. The flatline is not going to do enough damage on its own, and E6 are going to be done. Forge will wipe them out, but at what cost? They're now going to get third party.
Oh, there's the black hole as well, or is it going to be destroyed in time to stop the nades maybe following up? It doesn't matter, because Alliance smell blood. They move in. They are one of the best teams in the world at sensing these third-party opportunities, and not only sensing them down, making the most of them to get those kills.
You can see the fights are happening on the northern side of the map as people now starting to get desperate to move closer to that circle in these moments. And R301, whilst in the air of Horizon Effect, showing why he's been such an incredible inclusion to this Alliance roster. And remember, they are second to Gaming Gladiators at the moment, but not by much. So Gaming Gladiators, if they were to go down, it would give an amazing opportunity for Alliance to take first place here this week.
Well, GG are holding out Turkish Stars at the moment. LFO forever. They're eliminated in the meantime, thanks to Rugby from Na'Vi. So Na'Vi once again getting a couple of points on the board here. Gaming Gladiators know that they have to leave. There's no other option for the team inside of this vault tunnel than to have to take this 3v3, and with Deki, Artico and Leogri just staring at you, they're hoping that someone else can get involved. Na'Vi eliminated in the meantime. So Na'Vi go from good to not good very, very quickly.
Yeah, very quickly indeed, and I think one member of Phoenix Legacy was actually able to survive, and they'll be moving in. They'll be the team that actually survives that eventual story, but Gaming Gladiators now should be able to hold out this team comfortably. You've just got to do it at full health. You can't afford to go down. As I say that, 2 have fallen. Maybe not. Yeah, 2 have fallen. Now it's all down to Leogri.
Liogri will get the kills, but can he get into zone? That's the question. That delayed push from Turkish Stars probably frustrating Gaming Gladiators a little bit because they're thinking, hey, we know you've got to move. You've got the zone closing behind you. Why are you waiting so late? And that's thrown their game in the bin a little bit, but they did get some KP off the back of it. So Gaming Gladiators down, Hackers now. The IGL needs to become Superman, and he can't do it either. And it's IG. IG in the final moments who win a massive battle.
IG now with the chance to get first place this week with GG going out and with Alliance falling. Suddenly IG, it all opens up for them to take first place, but they just have to make sure they have a solid game here. I estimate they need about 4 or 5 more points if they want to be first. So that could come through kills, or that could just purely come through placement if they can get into the top 3. As Phoenix Legacy still alive, G-Dolphin and the Rampart still doing damage. The way they've been able to still get in this zone is insane. They had to fight off several teams, including Na'Vi, who they eventually took the fight with, traverse the land south, but now they've got to go that one step further. It seems like no matter how far they go across this map, this circle keeps pulling away from them.
I mentioned how Phoenix Legacy might have a little bit of luck go on their side with the way that zone pulled. And they could kind of clean up the mess of everybody leaving Lava City towards Dom. This is eliciting now, though, with IG because they are inside of one of the best buildings, but they've got to move in around 20 seconds time. Let's see what the moves are.
Grace, I'm coming to you, Grace.
Yeah.
I got it.
Can I play height here?
We're going to take control of roof late, okay? I don't have EMP, but I do have gold helm. It's top 5, guys. One. Two players dead. Yeah, it's one rat. You're right. It's every team is full.
Oh.
Are we sharing? Is there a team on the other side of this building? If not, we have a 3v3 against this team inside.
Yeah, there's a team inside.
Okay, we prioritize the roof. Prioritize the roof, I think.
Yeah.
Is the roof good?
I can't see him right now.
Donating here.
Yeah. The rat's still here on the left. Look at this rat. KP on the rat. KP on the rat.
For what? Are we going here?
On the roof. We're placing. We have to take roof.
I'm on the roof.
Rinse out on me. Yep. Fence this door when you can, Grace. Yeah, they might double kick this. Fence this door.
I fenced it. I placed a gen.
Yeah, I'm climbing up. Play backside of roof. We're chilling for now.
EMP.
They're gonna send us.
Maybe.
Yep. I'm nading Sloan down.
I fenced.
I got one.
Hold.
Yeah, I hear you.
Come up.
I'm holding you. Let me know when I can heal.
You
can heal now.
Yeah.
I have EMP. I want to.
Where's the other squad? Where's the other squad? Where is the other squad?
Where's the full squad? Here! It's 2 teams out here. We take this 3v3, okay? You guys ready?
They're split, there's fuck.
You have 20 seconds. I'm gonna EMP them. Be ready. I'm EMP them now. Ready. I'm swinging with Jay.
Okay, I'm peeking inside.
One's in this room, Jay. I'm nading him. Push inside. Wait, swing inside. You ready?
Back,
3, 2, 1. Swing inside.
I'm batting, all you guys.
One dead.
Play your left cam. I'm here.
Nice,
Just crypto. I'm dead.
Cracked him. Give me shield.
Yeah.
He's dead.
Nice. Res Grace.
I'm resting. Yeah, I just fenced first.
Res me. Nice. I have gold. I'm gonna res.
Yes, I have gold as well. You just armor swap.
Yeah, okay, I hear you. No, I'm gonna sell. We're fine.
Get me.
Yeah.
Well, back into the game. What a push that is coming in from IG, Dan. A massive decision, and they win the 3v3 inside the building.
And as I said, that takes them into second place, and now they've got to chase Gaming Gladiators. But Gaming Gladiators had kills in this game, so it is not going to be easy. They would need a victory plus these kills that you can see on your screen if they're going to have a chance for first place. So still all to do from IG, but what a listening that was. The intensity was there from the squad, screaming at each other, and I love the decision to take the straight 3v3.
But surely this is IG's game. You can see the Gamer Drones and Phoenix Legacy, they're right next to each other. They're going to be damaging each other. They're going to cause all sorts of problems, and Phoenix Legacy know that they've got to take this fight, and that surely just opens the door here for IG. IMP is going to do a huge amount of damage, but so is the zone now. Phoenix Legacy causing all sorts of problems, but here comes Invictus, picking their moment to to strike, and once again, it's the perfect moment. Invictus International close out the day's action with a huge win here on World's Edge.
It's a massive game. I'm not sure it's quite going to be enough to topple Gaming Gladiators at the top. I think they were off by about 2 or 3 kills, but still, that won't take away from what an incredible day it's been for IG. They have been in and around that final circle so many times, and for them to keep getting these victories, to keep having this success, they moved so early in that rotation, and they were just incredible in those final circles. I loved that 3v3 fight that we got to have a listen in. Just the swinging ability, the bait and switch, making sure they were min-maxing on their shield swaps as well, just perfect.
Yeah, completely agreed. A lot to love from what you saw from IG in that end game, in that game number 6. My favorite part, though, hands down the entirety of the listen and what that truly said about this IG roster. You heard it. Noises as an IGL truly just showcased what makes him so great. His decisiveness, his ability to command the team, their ability to ask the right questions and co-IGL. You saw Graceful stepping up and making calls and showing that he can actually macro IGL while Noises is able to micro IGL. You saw it come through right there, and it worked out really, really well for them. Brilliant stuff from Invictus Gaming, Mark, as we look at the highlights.
Yeah, brilliant from them. It was just a few moments from them that really stood out. One was how quickly that they got into the position on that the very southern side of World's Edge from the start. Dan was comparing it to how quickly Gaming Gladiators got into their position, and it was like they were there before Gaming Gladiators had even left Lava Siphon. So you could see what the plan was early on, but in those end games, it's all about creating game-winning scenarios. When there's 4 teams alive, you know that you can't win that game unless you take a straight 3v3 and then let the other teams do the work for you. So it was the recognition of the situation, but then the execution as well, pushing off the back of the EMP, big damage and the double swing on the door. It was perfect, to be honest with you, from Invictus. Great communication, but not only that, following the orders to a T to make sure they got the win.
Yeah, gotta completely agree with you. Great late game, great finish, and they had to get through some tough teams. Ascend, obviously bunkering up, an Ascend team that runs Newcastle. They still were able to push them to success. Well played, and Ascend had shield swaps galore set up in that fight. Instead, IG says, "Let me take your shield swap real quick," and grabs it for themselves. I like this play from Impto in the late game. You gotta give some respect where respect is due. He actually places his second Arc Star just in front of the black hole and knows that they're gonna have to push forward. So kudos to him. In the end, a 22-point game for IG. But take a look at Gaming Gladiators. They grab 8, which should be enough to keep them in first. We'll take a look at the overall standings here in a bit. Game of Drones, Phoenix Legacy also showing some life casking.
Yeah, big game from Game of Drones. I think that will do them a world of good as we move forward in Pro League after some rough games to start with today. And Phoenix Legacy, again, they were down towards the bottom of that leaderboards, but they've showed that, you know, when they do get that good game and they do have everything going their way, they can make sure they can force their way through to those zones without the information characters that Onset was bringing up. They didn't have that beacon information necessarily as easy. Oh, no, excuse me, they had the Valkyrie, they just didn't have a Seer or a Bloodhound for the information on scans, is what I meant to say. As we look, though, at the bottom 10, a few rough games for teams who have had success before. Pioneers, for example, haven't really been able to get rolling. They haven't looked like the Pioneers that we saw in week number 1.
That's right. Taking a look at the second page here overall, Kansas City Pioneers, disappointing game for them. And in the end, KCP in 14th. But take a look at our top 3 by 3 points only, 3 kills, possibly Rats that could have made the difference. It's going to be Gaiman over Invictus Gaming. Both of them look fantastic today. Gaiman needed that much more than IG did. IG was currently in 7th or 8th place going into today's competition. But Alliance, in their debut with Effects, they also lost a game. Effects had a PC crash in game number 3, which you hate to see. Still, a 3rd place finish was 57 points. And then you take a look, Ember and Corpora in 4th and 5th is awesome in my eyes, Mark. 2 teams coming from Challenger Circuit and coming from Quals performing with a top 5 finish as well.
Yeah, putting up a lot of KP alongside it as well. I think that was the most impressive thing for me, is how aggressive they were and how confident they were in their fighting ability when they did have the opportunity to push and do damage onto a team. So Ember and Corp are certainly team names to keep an eye on as we roll through the weeks. But I was really impressed with the top 3 teams that we have at the on our leaderboards. I mean, historically, these teams have been some of the best in EMEA, and there was different moments where you could see exactly why. But I just love the resurrection of Gaming Gladiators, right? I've been waiting weeks for this. We're like, where have these boys been? And all of a sudden, when it gets to the crunch time, it seems maybe it took them a few weeks to get around the meta, whatever it might have been. They return, they show that class that we expected from them.
That's right. And as a result, well, they break into the top 10 from 27th to 8th place in our overall regular season Pro League standings. Keep in mind, Group C, well, we got 6 teams, 5 teams on the second page, 1 on the first page. Shout out to Aurora. They have not played their 3rd day of competition yet, so they have currently are behind 1 game. But in the end, Alliance currently on top, Ascend in 2nd. Pioneers fall all the way down to 4th place. Take a look at the second page here. Again, you'll see mostly Group C in the bottom 10 teams that will get relegated because they haven't played yet, but the Turkish Stars, 3 Muppets, Echo Esports, and Corpa are at risk of being relegated in their current standings, so they got to step up here in these future Pro League series as we, if they want a chance to qualify for top 20 in the regional finals that will wrap up our Pro League Split 1 heading into the Split 1 playoffs. Let's take a look as well at our kill leaderboards. Gaskin, who performed today at an individual level? We take a look at the kill leaderboards here. Walk me through what you're seeing.
Well, I don't think that's too much of a surprise to see 2 members of Diamond Gladiators at the top after their sheer amount of aggression that they were putting down on every map that they faced. Yuki also picking up big amount of kills for Alliance. I think you've got to give a shout out to Unlucky, considering how Vex were playing and where they placed. The fact that he is still up there amongst the big boys is very impressive to how Vex were playing, and then of course Noises rounding it out in the top 5. But those are 5 incredibly talented players. I am not particularly surprised that we see them residenting there, and honestly, it could have been the other way around. It could have been Hardeki at the top. It could have been Leogri second. These Diamond Gladiators, they could split the kills so evenly. It's just about who's in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, you'll have to see Young Hong Kong and Clutch in there as well. Our 2 rookies in the top 7 of the overall kill leaderboards. Congratulations to Leogri, your kill leader for the day, though, overall. Diamond Gladiators are certainly back. Alliance performed, Invictus performed. Of course, a lot of teams stepped up today, but this is my favorite part of the show. Time where we have a chance to talk through who performed as an individual. It's time to discuss your Monster MVP. All right, gentlemen. Mark, I want to start with you and get your thoughts here. Who performed? Who's your MVP on the day and why?
I have to go with Hardeki. And I know it's very easy for people to always go, oh, you're going with Hardeki because he's the player who's like a flashy player and all of this. But I just feel like there was just a change in the way that he played today, and it looked like the Hardeki of old. I want to give a shout out to his 2 teammates as well, because I think that they supported everything that he did and they played equally as well. It's just very difficult to pick one name out of this Diamond Gladiators team. But the way that he was doing damage, and then previously we might have seen a little bit of start step from Hardeki. Second question himself, are we confident enough to take this fight? Today, that all changed in that game on Storm Point, where he just took over. I call it the Hardeki shuffle. That's when he gets damage down, and you see that immediate slide forward, where he's trying to close the gap, trying to immediately put pressure on. And this end game, the way that they controlled things, I think it was all down to Hardeki just keeping poking damage onto teams with that wingman. He was superb today, and I think that a lot of the success was based off of the confidence that seems to be back into the, the sights, the gun sights of Hardeki when he takes those fights and he comes out and looks so successful.
Yeah, and the fact that he's able to do it, Mark, as the IGL of this team, so impressive. 2nd overall kill leaders, you got to give respect to Leogri as well, but the overall impact he has on this team is certainly felt. You see it in these replays as well. Wingman nonstop. All he used was a wingman throughout the entirety of the day, it seemed like. And again, that's what we're used to seeing Hardeki performing with. He is a monster, and it certainly showed today. Dan, I want to hear your thoughts, though. Do you agree, disagree?
Oh, I completely agree, but I want to highlight someone else. I want to talk about someone who had to deal with pressure being added to a new team, and I'm going to talk about effect on Alliance. And when you are added to a team, when there is a lot of pressure, when there's a lot of talk about you, you've got to try and respond in the best way possible, and that's by popping off. That's by having the best week you can here in Pro League. And I think his individual ability and the way he approached fights, the way he engaged fights, he was the damage dealer at times. He would be getting up close and personal, getting in the face of opposition and leading the charge for Alliance. And I think that's exactly what Alliance needed. When you look at the loss of Vibes and what he used to offer, you needed someone who could replicate the damage output, and Effect is doing just that. You've got the calls being made for him, sending him on in. He's almost the soldier to the general, and he is making sure that he gets that damage done, absolutely shredding no matter where he is. It doesn't matter if he's in the sky, if he's on the ground, he can be anywhere with the Horizon, and I do think that Horizon fits him perfectly with his playstyle.
Yeah, kudos and congratulations to Effect in his ALGS debut with Alliance. The young 17-year-old performed. I got to agree with you wholeheartedly there. And again, I could barely tie my shoes when I was 17 years old, let alone moving to an entirely new country to compete and play alongside the Alliance squad. Kudos to Alliance for picking him up and supporting him and his family in their transition moving to Serbia. And I'm excited to see his career continue to progress. I certainly agree wholeheartedly with those picks, gentlemen. This has been your Monster MVP. Great discussion as always in terms of who performed, how they performed, and when. And of course, it's a team game, but the MVP individual performance certainly does make a difference. That's for sure. as we get ready for a very special part of the post-game interview and breakdown. Guess what? We're going to have a live interview. I'm getting word. I think it will be with Noises from IG, which gets me all types of excited. Just got confirmation in my ear that we are ready and live with Noises, the IGL of Invictus Gaming, one of the kindest people, one of my favorite pro players in all of Apex. Noises, congratulations on the dub. How you feel, man?
Thank you. It feels good. It feels good. Yeah, really good.
Obviously, you get the monkey off your back. Your first win with Graceful and on your team. Or sorry, you guys didn't win. You got second place. But your first, dominant standout top 2 performance. You started to perform. Talk about the last couple of weeks. Picking up Graceful. Why you guys decided on Graceful, and how you've kind of molded and meshed it as a team.
Replacing Bryn it's never going to be easy. He's just one of a kind. So we kind of had to take a different dynamic and think who we can get in, who's going to offer something else that we can work around instead of trying to find a Bryn. We tried to find a new player who we can sort of build the team around, basically. So Jay's played with Grace before, everyone knows how good he is, so we thought let's get him in and let's try things out. And me and him have just hit it off. Things like this take time. You have to build synergy, you have to understand each other, but I feel we're getting, every single time we play, we're getting closer and closer. And the guy is he's just doing so much damage, he's just doing so much work. So yeah. And it's also really helpful to have him because he's where he's used to IGL, he's got a lot of experience, and he understands how I feel, and he understands how to support me. So yeah, I'm really enjoying playing with him right now.
Amazing stuff. Noises, I'm slightly annoyed at you because that was the exact question I was just about to ask. So don't worry.
Sorry, I'm rambling.
That's how good he is.
It's all good. I was going to ask about, for the people at home, I always talk about the pressure that an IGL has on an Apex team, and it's it's very difficult because when you make a good move, it's okay, we expect you to do that. You're our leader. But when you make a bad move, it's kind of highlighted and you feel the pressure yourself. And, you say that there's so important to have a co-IGL alongside you that's been in that position, that understands. Talk us through those final moments in that game as well, because you made a big call to fight that team inside, and immediately you were backed up on your decision. You were kind of vindicated at it by Graceful. Yeah. How good is it to have someone alongside you to help in that moment?
I really believe with Apex, especially, it's about energy. And if you're giving out energy as a leader, and the players, your teammates, are sort of bouncing that energy back onto you, it just fills you with confidence. And that's kind of what happened in that last fight. I was we should fight this. And then Grace is he's with me, whether it's a good call or a bad call, he's with me. And it just makes me feel it kind of makes you feel indestructible, even if you lose the fight, you feel we tried, But it definitely makes a difference because when you're trying to IGL and you're kind of by yourself, you feel every call you make, whether it's good or bad, the burden is completely on you. It's your burden, and you kind of take it home, if you know what I mean. But in situations like that, I knew we had to fight them. It's the only play to make. And Grace knows it too, because he has a deep understanding of the game, and he just screams yes. And it's oh shit, okay, let's do it. It's really empowering is the word I would use. It's very empowering. Yeah.
I love that. Amazing. Make sure to go back and watch that VOD because it was one of the best listen-ins and really showcased how great IGL in a lot of ways. Secondary IGL he is for y'all. It's awesome to see. I want to ask you just quickly, I want to borrow your brain a little bit. I know you can't say too much because obviously things are competitive. You want to maintain integrity, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on the current status of meta, how you think kind of meta currently is at, why you guys run crypto instead of the flavor of the month Newcastle Watson, or instead of the flavor of the month Seer Horizon Valk, et cetera, et cetera.
So, well, okay. First off, I'll touch the meta thing. The weird thing I find about the meta right now is people are just dying at a rate that isn't really seen. And I bet it's amazing as a viewer, right? A lot of fighting, but as a player, it's very strange because I'm kind of having to relearn the game because, for instance, there was the first game today and the second game, I would kind of anticipated more teams alive in the late game. And when there's more teams alive, you can play it differently, right? The strats change. So there was 1 or 2 moments where I'm hang on, these lobbies are actually playing out with a lot more aggression, a lot more early game fights, and there's less teams alive late game. And what that also means is the teams that are alive late game have 5 times the amount of loot, right? Because they've steamrolled 4 teams to get there. So it kind of changes the entire way that I play crypto. And I've had to kind of learn this the hard way. Is previously I would spend a lot of my time on my drone, feeding information, finding out what's going on. And I knew my area was safe. It's kind of we fence off our area and we're okay, we're safe. I can drone here. And to be honest with you, the way the meta is now, I've had to adapt and learn to just get out my drone, always be looking around, always be ready for someone to horizon queue up and try and shoot me or just send me with Valk or anything like that. So I definitely say I've had to shift the way I play the meta. But on top of that, I would also say that I really think that crypto is just, I don't want to leak too much, but I think he's just the best legend for competitive. The amount of information he can give you. And the reason I play him fundamentally is because he removes random elements of the game. And if you can remove elements of Apex that are random, you just have an advantage. That's the way I believe it. And then it also helps if you have like, JMW and Grace like killing everyone. But yeah, you get my point, right? He's just a good legend. So yeah.
Oh, great insights, mate. I appreciate you sharing. Obviously, didn't go into too much detail. That's the exact knowledge we were looking for, right? Remove as much randomness as possible. Information is everything, hence the crypto pick. I think it's a brilliant call, and you guys did it to success today. Congratulations again on the dub. And the second place finish, close to dub, 3 points away from the dub.
Feels like a dub.
Showing, though, from you and your team. It does feel like a dub, the way you ended the game 6 as well. Thanks, mate.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good night.
Thank you so much. Nice to talk to you.
Likewise. Cheers and shout out to Noises. Make sure to drop them a follow on Twitter. Noises with 2 eyes, by the way, the IGL of Invictus Gaming, and show some love for IG as well as Guiding Gladiators, your champions on the day. But hey, what a day it was. The top 3 teams, it almost feels like order is restored, that you expect to perform are on top. It's Alliance, it's Guiding Gladiators, and it's Invictus Gaming. Gentlemen, as we wrap up, I want to hear your final thoughts on the day. Gaskin, starting with you.
I just think that it's impressive, these teams, what they go through, right? They are really run through when you look at how close they can come to victories to then getting slapped around in 20th spot, but then they can come back and they can perform well. Diamond Gladiators are perfect indication of that you can still get through it if you are playing at your very best, if you stick to what you know about Apex Legends. And then elsewhere, you've got to look at teams like Invictus, who were getting second, they were getting third, but they weren't quite getting a victory. And then suddenly the victories start flooding through, and it is just about sticking to what you know. It's just, honestly, I'm watching this region every week. People are changing metas, people are changing decisions, people are coming up with something new. And I love the EMEA region, I love what they offer us, and it's so competitive that we never really know what's going to happen.
Yeah, off the back of that, I want to I think I'm going to start an IGL support group. I think it's very important for them to feel like they have somewhere to go when things aren't going your way. Because we just had from that interview, right, how tough it can be, but how great it can be. You're either the hero or the zero if you're an IGL. So shout out to everybody who's making those big play calls for their teams. But I think that what we learned today is that we have still got some really important game days ahead of us, and we still don't know what the solidified number is going to be moving on to the next stage of the Apex Legends Global Series. So I think today was a very good kind of turnaround, right? We saw Pioneers struggling a little bit. We saw Ascend a little bit up and down, where previously we've been like, well, these have been the 2 best teams so far. And we see the resurgence of Guyming Gladiators. Who's going to be the team next week that maybe starts a resurgence? Who's going to be the team that falls off? It sets us up beautifully this week, I think, in EMEA for what we can expect to see in the following weeks. And I think that is a little bit of unpredictability. So I think Invictus, at the end of the day, their consistency is coming back. That's the best sign for them. Their consistency has always been their standout. So I've got a lot of good hopes for IG moving forward as well.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. And it seems like they're only going to be on the up and up, right? They're going to mesh more as a team. They're going to start to learn how Graceful can kind of be that co-IGL that calls out the macro or impacts and affects some of the calls that Noises makes as well. So I'm excited to see IG perform. And I agree with both of you. The overall storyline of EMEA is you never know who's going to step up. But to me, one thing y'all didn't highlight is the rookies, the new teams, the new blood in the ALGS Pro League. I mean, they showed up today. Corpa with a much, much needed performance that's going to help them in the overall standings pretty significantly, on top of Ember and a few others. So it just goes to show any single one of you watching right now can be in this Pro League next season. If you decide you want it enough, you can make your way through the Challenger Circuit, you can make your way to Split 2 playoffs, and you can make your way to the ALGS Championship at the end of the year, the largest event with millions in prizing. It's just crazy to think about overall. But big shout out to the general Apex players and fans that are aspiring, the grinders, and every single one of you in the chat supporting the community as well. We all know this is the most entertaining esport to watch, and we can't thank you enough for supporting that every step of the way. It's so much fun watching competitive Apex at its highest level, and EMEA certainly showed that today. What a day it was, as we say goodbye to Onset and Gaskin and get ready to preview our North American broadcast, which will be coming up next. Congratulations again to Guyming Gladiators on a dominant day, showcasing that they are back. Congrats to Alliance and their debut with Effects, and IG for their consistency. But the North American broadcast is coming up next. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We got Group A, we got Group B back at it. TSM, Furia, Tripods against the likes of NRG, Cloud9, and so many more. It's going to be an amazing North American broadcast as well. So enjoy yourself a little break, grab a little lunch, relax a little bit, maybe get a couple games of Apex in, and we'll see you back for the North American broadcast in just a few hours. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Again, on behalf of myself, I'm Fallout, alongside our casters, Onset and Gaskin, our entire production team. Big shout out to Simona, the esports engine crew, and every single one behind the scenes that makes it possible. Thanks for watching, y'all. We'll catch y'all in just a few hours for the North American broadcast right after this.